Level 1. Below normal intelligence, IQ below 70. When most people hear the word intelligence, their minds immediately jump to ideas of brilliance, someone who solves puzzles in seconds, a kid who breezes through math, or the kind of person who always has a sharp comeback. But intelligence is not a single number, nor is it reserved only for the gifted few. It's a wide-ranging spectrum that includes everyone, from the fastest thinkers to those who require far more time and guidance. At the very bottom of this scale lies what psychologists call below normal intelligence, usually measured as an IQ score below 70. For those who fall into this category, the world moves at a different pace. Daily life isn't about chasing complex ideas or ambitious goals. It's about navigating the fundamentals, learning routines, building habits, and mastering skills that others might barely notice. To really understand what life looks like at this level, we need to set aside assumptions and take a closer look at how people learn, communicate, and adapt when their minds are wired this way, learning at a different speed. Think back to the last time you learned something new. Maybe it was how to use a new app, cook a new recipe, or set up a piece of technology. Chances are, you fumbled once or twice, but after a few tries, it stuck. Now imagine if every new task felt like learning to ride a bike from scratch, every single time. That's what learning often feels like for someone with an IQ below 70. It isn't that they can't learn. They can, but the process is slower, more fragile, and deeply tied to repetition. A child in this group might need weeks of step-by-step practice just to button a shirt, while another might only master brushing their teeth after months of daily demonstration. Abstract concepts, like understanding why personal hygiene matters, or predicting what will happen tomorrow, can be almost unreachable. What clicks instead are concrete, visible, repetitive lessons. They thrive on consistency. This is why schools and caregivers focus so heavily on life skills rather than academic achievement. Math and literature take a back seat to lessons like how to cross the street safely, or how to prepare a sandwich. The goal isn't to chase grades, it's to build independence in the areas that matter most. And though progress can be slow, every breakthrough, no matter how small, becomes a victory worth celebrating. The role of routine and structure. For someone with below normal intelligence, structure isn't just helpful, it's essential. Routine provides safety. It's the anchor that holds their world together. When life follows a clear pattern, wake up at the same time, eat meals in the same order, complete tasks step by step, there's stability. But when that pattern breaks, confusion and distress often follow. Picture a young man who always takes the same bus route to work. One day, that bus is cancelled, and he's told to take a different line. For most people, this is a minor inconvenience. For him, it's disorienting. Without preparation, without someone walking him through the new steps, the disruption feels like the rug has been pulled out from under his feet. Because of this, caregivers and educators carefully build predictable environments. Visual calendars, simple instructions, and consistent routines create a sense of security. Change isn't avoided altogether. Life has its surprises, but it's introduced gradually. With preparation and reassurance. Communication. Limited words, big feelings. One of the most overlooked aspects of this level of intelligence is communication. For some, speech comes late or never develops fully. Vocabulary may be small, sentences short, and conversations limited, but to assume this means they don't feel deeply would be a mistake. People at this level often express themselves through nonverbal cues, gestures, facial expressions, tone of voice, or body language. A smile, a hug, a hand reaching for comfort can carry more weight than a dozen words. And when surrounded by patient, attentive people, these cues are understood clearly. That said, difficulties in communication can lead to frustration. Imagine knowing what you want but not having the words to explain it. Imagine needing help but being unable to describe your pain. This gap can cause stress, outbursts, or withdrawal. But with tools, like picture cards, assistive technology, or simply a caregiver who knows them well, communication barriers can be softened. The emotional landscape. While intellectual ability may be limited, emotions are not. People with IQs below 70 feel joy, sadness, pride, and anger just as strongly as anyone else. In fact, because coping mechanisms are often underdeveloped, these emotions can come out more directly, sometimes more intensely. When treated with patience and encouragement, they often radiate warmth and affection. Many show loyalty and gratitude in ways that feel refreshingly genuine. They may not hide emotions behind layers of complexity the way others do. What you see is what you get. On the other hand, environments that are critical or dismissive can crush their self-esteem quickly, leaving scars of inadequacy that are hard to heal. This is why supportive relationships matter so much. A caregiver who celebrates small achievements, a teacher who recognizes effort over results, a sibling who includes them in games. These moments shape their identity more than test scores ever could. Strengths hidden in plain sight. It's easy to focus on what people with IQs under 70 cannot do. But just as important is to notice what they can. Many have excellent memory for routines. Once a sequence is learned, it's performed with striking consistency. In structured environments, sorting, cleaning, organizing, they often excel. Others bring something less tangible but equally valuable: emotional warmth and resilience. Caregivers often remark that despite challenges, these individuals teach lessons in patience, kindness, and perseverance. They remind those around them that progress isn't always about leaps and bounds. Sometimes it's about steady steps forward, taken with courage. The weight of society's perception. Unfortunately, society hasn't always been kind to people at this level of intelligence. For decades, they were institutionalized, hidden from view, and treated as though they had no place in the community. Today, attitudes have shifted toward inclusion and dignity. But stereotypes remain. Many still face underestimation, bullying, or the assumption that they cannot contribute meaningfully. But inclusion changes everything. With the right support, many individuals can hold jobs suited to their skills, form friendships, and play active roles in their communities. They may not change the world with inventions or breakthroughs, but they enrich the lives of those around them in quieter, no less important ways. Closing thoughts. At the lowest end of the intelligence spectrum, life is undeniably challenging. Learning is slow. Communication can be difficult, and independence is limited, but to reduce people at this level to just their struggles would be unfair. Their lives are filled with meaning, shaped by the love they give and the support they receive. If anything, their existence forces the rest of us to slow down, to appreciate small victories, and to recognize that intelligence is not the only measure of a person's worth. In their own way, they remind us of something we too often forget: that human dignity doesn't depend on IQ points, but on the simple fact of being human. Numbers and definitions only tell part of the story. To really understand what life is like for someone with an IQ below 70, you have to look at lived experiences, the way learning unfolds in real households, the way families adapt, and the way individuals find meaning despite challenges. Every person's journey is unique, but the stories share common threads: persistence, support, and the simple victories that mean more than outsiders might realize. Case Study 1. Tommy's morning routine. Tommy is 9 years old. He has an IQ of 65 and has been diagnosed with mild intellectual disability. On paper, that diagnosis looks cold and clinical, but in reality, it means his mornings take a little longer, and his progress comes in smaller steps. For most kids his age, brushing teeth is second nature. For Tommy, it was a mountain to climb. His mom spent weeks showing him, step by step: wet the toothbrush, squeeze the paste, brush in circles, spit, rinse. At first, he resisted. He forgot steps. Sometimes he'd brush without toothpaste or rinse before he started. But after months of consistent practice, always at the same time, Always in the same order. He got it. Now, brushing his teeth is part of who he is. He beams with pride when his mom says, "Good job, buddy." What many kids take for granted has become Tommy's personal victory. And for his parents, it's not about checking a box, it's about independence. That one routine means their son has taken a step toward managing life on his own, even in a small way. Case study 2. Maria in the classroom. Maria is a high school student with an IQ of 55. She's enrolled in a special education program where the focus isn't on algebra or Shakespeare but on functional skills. Her classmates practice things like making a grocery list, recognizing road signs, or learning how to tell time on an analog clock. One day, Maria's teacher sets up a mock grocery store in the classroom. Each student is given play money and a list of 3 items to buy. The activity might look simple, even childish, to an outsider, but for Maria, it's a real test of independence. She studies the prices carefully, counts out her dollars with the help of her fingers, and hands them to the cashier with a shy smile. It takes her longer than most, but she does it, and when she leaves the classroom, she isn't just carrying a bag of pretend groceries, she's carrying a little more confidence. Someday, she may be able to shop at the corner store near her home without needing her older sister to guide her. That's freedom, on her own terms. Case study 3. James in the workplace. James is 28 and works part-time at a local recycling center. His IQ is 60. His job is simple. Sort paper from plastic and place items in the right bins. Some people might consider that menial work, but for James, it's a source of pride. He shows up on time, follows the routine he's been taught, and does his job with consistency. His supervisor says he rarely makes mistakes and often works harder than employees who are technically smarter. The rhythm of the task suits him. It's predictable, structured, and repetitive. The exact environment where he thrives. More importantly, James feels like he belongs. He greets his coworkers, collects his paycheck, and tells his mom proudly, "I'm helping the planet." That sense of purpose gives him dignity. And his coworkers have learned something too. That contribution isn't measured by complexity but by commitment. Family stories. Love and patience. Behind every individual with below normal intelligence is usually a family or caregiver whose life has been shaped by love and patience. Raising a child with these challenges isn't easy. It requires endless repetition, extraordinary patience, and often a willingness to celebrate victories others don't even notice. Parents describe the bittersweet mix of exhaustion and joy. They talk about the heartbreak of watching their child struggle to form sentences, alongside the pure happiness of hearing, "I love you," for the first time at age 8. They talk about the frustration of routines that take forever, balanced against the gratitude of seeing progress, no matter how small. Siblings play a role too. Many grow up learning empathy and responsibility earlier than most. They become translators, advocates, and protectors. A brother might walk his sister to class every day, not because she can't find her way, but because the world can be unkind, and he wants to shield her. These families embody resilience, not in grand, heroic gestures, but in daily commitment. Society's role. From exclusion to inclusion. Not long ago, many people with IQs below 70 were hidden away in institutions, separated from the rest of society. They were seen as burdens, not individuals. Stories from that era are often bleak. Children raised without families. Adults denied the chance to contribute. Entire lives lived in isolation. Thankfully, much has changed. Laws like the Americans with Disabilities Act and movements for inclusion have opened doors. Today, children with intellectual disabilities are more likely to attend public schools. Adults are more likely to work in their communities. And families are more likely to receive support. Still, challenges remain. Stigma lingers. Bullying happens. Too often, society underestimates their potential. But the tide is shifting. And every success story, every Tommy, Maria, or James, helps push it further. What these stories teach us. What do we learn when we look closely at these lives? First, that progress looks different for everyone. For some, it's earning a PhD. For others, it's learning to tie their shoes without help. Both matter, in their own contexts. Second, we learn that support changes everything. With the right environment, structured routines, patient teaching, inclusive communities, people with IQs below 70 can flourish in ways that might surprise outsiders. Without support, their potential remains locked away. And finally, we're reminded of something simple yet profound. Value doesn't come from intelligence alone. Dignity isn't measured in test scores. Whether it's Tommy mastering his toothbrush, Maria buying groceries, or James sorting recyclables, these victories matter. They matter because they belong to real people who, despite challenges, live full, meaningful lives. Closing thoughts. Stories make the abstract concrete. They put faces and names to what might otherwise feel like numbers in a chart. And they remind us that while intelligence defines how people learn, it doesn't define their worth. The boy who learns to brush his teeth, the teenager who buys her groceries, the man who sorts recyclables. These are not small lives. They are human lives, filled with struggle, yes, but also filled with love, resilience, and meaning. And in many ways, they remind the rest of us to appreciate the things we too often overlook. When we look at life through the lens of below normal intelligence, it's tempting to focus only on what's missing, the difficulties in learning, the dependence on others, the things that may never come easily. And it's true, there are real obstacles that shape every part of daily life. But there are also opportunities, moments of unexpected growth, and deep lessons that society can learn if it pays attention. To really understand this level of intelligence, we need to explore both sides of the coin, the struggles that define it and the possibilities that still remain open. The everyday challenges. For many individuals with IQs below 70, life is filled with challenges that most people barely notice. Think about something as ordinary as crossing a street. For you, it's second nature. Look both ways. Judge the speed of oncoming cars. And step forward when it's safe. For someone with limited cognitive ability, that simple act requires careful training and constant vigilance. Misjudging timing or forgetting a step could mean danger. Now imagine multiplying that sense of difficulty across dozens of everyday situations: handling money, following directions, using public transportation, or responding to emergencies. Each one poses risks if not carefully supported. Independence is possible in some areas, but constant supervision and structured guidance are often needed to ensure safety. Communication adds another layer. Misunderstandings happen easily when vocabulary is limited or when thoughts can't be expressed clearly. Frustration builds, and sometimes that frustration spills over into emotional outbursts, not because the person is difficult, but because the world around them moves faster than they can keep up with. And then there's the social challenge. Kids and adults alike face stigma, exclusion, and underestimation. A child may be bullied for being different. An adult may be overlooked for jobs or friendships because others assume they can't contribute. These wounds run deep, shaping self-esteem and identity in ways that can last a lifetime. The weight on families. Behind every individual at this level is usually a family carrying both love and responsibility. Parents often describe their journey as a constant balancing act between celebration and exhaustion, patience and worry. Raising a child with below normal intelligence means planning life around therapy appointments, special education programs, and countless small routines. Vacations, work schedules, even grocery shopping have to be adjusted. Siblings sometimes step into caregiving roles earlier than expected, learning empathy but also shouldering extra responsibility. The financial strain can be heavy too. Specialized education, medical care, and support services add up. And yet, families also talk about the unexpected rewards, the joy of watching their child accomplish something everyone thought impossible, the lessons of patience and compassion that ripple through the household. The way love is expressed more purely and openly. Opportunities for growth and belonging. Despite the challenges, opportunities exist when the right supports are in place. Inclusion in schools, adapted job programs, and community support networks can transform lives. Take vocational training, for example. Programs that match individuals with structured, routine-based work give them not only income but also dignity. Someone might fold towels at a hotel, prepare simple food items in a cafeteria, or help stock shelves in a store. These roles may seem small in the grand economy, but for the person doing them, they provide pride, purpose, and belonging. Social opportunities matter just as much. Community centers, sports programs, and inclusive events allow people with below normal intelligence to build friendships and experience joy in group settings. A game of basketball, a dance night, or even just a shared art project can create connections that transcend cognitive differences. Technology has opened doors to assistive communication devices, educational apps, and visual learning tools give individuals new ways to express themselves and to learn at their own pace. What once seemed impossible, like holding a conversation or practicing a skill independently, is increasingly within reach. The human meaning. Lessons for the rest of us. Perhaps the most profound part of understanding below normal intelligence is recognizing the lessons it teaches everyone else. First, it challenges the way we define success. In a world obsessed with achievement, grades, promotions, wealth, people at this level remind us that success can also mean tying your shoes on your own, holding a steady job, or saying, "I love you," for the first time at age 10. These milestones may look small from the outside, but they carry enormous weight for the individual and their family. Second, it asks us to reconsider the meaning of value. Too often, society equates value with productivity or intellect. But people with IQs below 70 show value in other ways, through loyalty, warmth, persistence, and the ability to bring out compassion in those around them. Their contributions may not always appear in spreadsheets or resumes, but they show up in the form of stronger, more empathetic communities. Finally, it teaches us about patience and presence. Living and working alongside someone with below normal intelligence means slowing down. It means celebrating incremental progress and being present in moments that many overlook. In a sense, they invite us to see life less as a race and more as a journey. A call for understanding and inclusion. If there is one overarching challenge for this group, it isn't their cognitive limitation, it's the way society responds to it. Too often, doors are closed before they even try to enter. Too often, voices are ignored because they aren't expressed in the ways we expect. The opportunity for us is to build a world that says yes more often. Yes to inclusion in classrooms. Yes to jobs adapted to different abilities. Yes to communities that make room for every kind of mind. When we do, we not only enrich their lives, we enrich our own. Closing thoughts. Life at level 1 intelligence is full of difficulties. Yes, but it is also full of meaning. These individuals may never publish books, design skyscrapers, or lead corporations, but they will laugh, cry, love, and grow. They will teach their families patience. They will show their communities that progress is relative, that dignity doesn't depend on IQ points, and that every human being has a story worth telling. At the end of the day, what makes a life valuable isn't how smart someone is, it's how much love they give and receive, how they shape the hearts of those around them, and how they remind us of the core truth we often forget: being human is enough. Level 2. Below average intelligence, IQ 70 to 85. If level 1 represents the most significant limitations in intellectual functioning, level 2 tells a different story, one that sits in a gray area between challenge and capability. People who score between 70 and 85 on IQ tests are not considered intellectually disabled in the formal sense. Instead, they fall into what psychologists sometimes call the borderline range, or below average intelligence. That label might sound harsh, but it describes a reality. These individuals can function independently in many areas of life. But they often face real obstacles when the world demands quick reasoning, abstract thought, or complex problem solving. Learning in the concrete world. For someone at this level, learning tends to lean heavily on the concrete and the practical. They are often hands-on learners, absorbing knowledge best through direct experience, examples, and repetition. Ask them to memorize abstract formulas or juggle multiple hypothetical scenarios, and they may falter. But give them a real-world situation. Show them how to cook a recipe, drive a simple route, or operate a machine, and with enough practice, they'll get it. This doesn't mean they cannot handle academics at all. Many students with IQs in this range complete high school, sometimes with extra support. They may not excel in subjects that require abstract reasoning like higher-level math or theoretical science, but they can grasp basic literacy, arithmetic, and vocational training. In fact, vocational and skills-based education often plays to their strengths, equipping them with tools for real-world independence. Independence with support. Perhaps the most defining feature of this group is their ability to live with a high degree of independence, especially compared to those at level 1. They can often dress themselves, manage personal hygiene, hold jobs, and even live alone or with minimal supervision. But independence comes with caveats. When life runs smoothly, when the tasks are predictable and clear, they can thrive. When the unexpected happens, when a sudden decision or a quick analysis is required, things become more difficult. For example, a young woman in this range might be able to manage her own apartment, cooking meals, paying rent, and commuting to work. But if her landlord suddenly raises the rent, or if her bus line is rerouted, the problem-solving required may feel overwhelming. This is where support networks, family, friends, mentors, make all the difference. Work and contribution. One of the strongest qualities of people with IQs between 70 and 85 is their reliability in structured, routine-based work. Many employers find that, given the right environment, these individuals are dependable, steady, and loyal employees. They often excel in jobs where consistency matters more than speed or creativity. Warehouse work, food preparation, custodial roles, customer service support, or machine operation. They may not be the ones designing new systems or leading projects, but they are often the ones keeping systems running day after day. And in many workplaces, that kind of reliability is priceless. Challenges with complexity. The flip side of this stability is a struggle with complexity. Abstract reasoning, fast decision-making, or tasks that involve juggling multiple layers at once can be difficult. A conversation that leaps from topic to topic, a job that requires constant improvisation, or a problem with no clear right answer can leave them feeling lost or left behind. This doesn't mean they can't adapt at all. With guidance, practice, and time, they can learn strategies to navigate more complex situations. But compared to peers with average or above average intelligence, their responses may be slower, their problem-solving less flexible, and their confidence more fragile in the face of uncertainty. Social life and relationships. Socially, individuals in this range are often fully capable of forming friendships, maintaining relationships, and participating in their communities. They may not always pick up on subtle cues or abstract social dynamics, but they are usually eager to connect and belong. With supportive peers, they can thrive socially. With peers who judge or dismiss them, they may withdraw or develop low self-esteem. Romantic relationships are also possible, though challenges in communication, finances, or decision-making may create stress. Guidance and education in areas like relationship skills, consent, and financial literacy are especially important. The invisible struggle. Perhaps the most difficult part of life at level 2 is that the struggles are often invisible. Unlike level 1, where the need for support is obvious, individuals at this level may look typical on the surface. Teachers may expect them to keep up in class without realizing how hard they're working. Employers may assume they can handle new tasks without providing enough training. Friends may misinterpret hesitation as laziness rather than difficulty. This invisibility can create a painful gap between expectations and abilities. They may be constantly compared to peers who learn faster, solve problems more easily, and move ahead more quickly. Without understanding, they can feel caught in a world where they're always just a step behind. Life at level 2 of intelligence is a blend of independence and limitation. On good days, it looks almost indistinguishable from average. On harder days, the cracks show, when decisions are rushed, when abstract thinking is required, when life demands more than concrete experience can provide. The people who live in this space are not defined by their struggles alone. They are workers, friends, siblings, neighbors, people who often bring loyalty, stability, and heart to their communities. And while their challenges are real, their contributions are equally real. Recognizing both sides of the story is the first step in building a world where they not only survive but also belong. It's one thing to talk about below-average intelligence in terms of scores, learning styles, and abilities, but numbers alone never capture what life actually feels like. To see this level of intelligence in its true form, we need to look at the everyday lives of people who live in this range, how they learn, how they work, how they love, and how they build meaning in the world. Their stories show not just the struggles, but also the dignity, resilience, and value of lives shaped by a different pace of thought. Case Study 1. Sarah the student. Sarah is a 10th grader who scores in the mid-70s on standardized tests. In many ways, she looks just like her classmates, she dresses like them, listens to the same music, and laughs at the same jokes. But in the classroom, her differences show. Math is her hardest subject. While her peers tackle algebraic equations, Sarah is still working on fractions and long division. Reading comprehension can be tricky too. She can follow a simple story, but when a teacher asks her to explain symbolism or interpret hidden meaning, she freezes. Her teachers have learned that Sarah does best when material is concrete and practical. Give her a worksheet full of numbers, and she may stumble, but ask her to calculate the total price of groceries with tax, and she lights up. She can see how it connects to her daily life, and the problem suddenly makes sense. Sarah's story shows something important. Success at this level isn't about climbing the same ladder as everyone else. It's about building a different ladder. With the right support, Sarah can thrive in vocational classes like culinary arts or childcare, where learning is hands-on and directly tied to real-world skills. Case Study 2. Daniel on the job. Daniel is 32 and works at a distribution warehouse. His IQ is measured at 80. Putting him right in the level 2 range. He's been at the same job for almost 7 years, and his supervisor describes him as one of the most reliable employees on the team. Every day, Daniel sorts packages, scans barcodes, and places items on carts for delivery. The job is repetitive, and some people would find it boring, but Daniel thrives on the consistency and structure. He knows exactly what to expect, and he takes pride in following the rules to the letter. His coworkers sometimes joke that Daniel is, by the book, to a fault. If the instructions say packages go on the left, that's exactly where he'll put them. No exceptions. But this trait, which others might see as inflexibility, is also what makes him so dependable. Outside of work, Daniel lives in a small apartment with a roommate. He pays his bills with help from a budgeting app his sister set up. And he relies on public transportation to get around. For the most part, he manages independently. But when things go wrong, like when the bus schedule changes or his landlord sends him a confusing notice, he leans on family to help sort it out. Daniel's life is steady, structured, and meaningful. He may never climb the corporate ladder, but he has something many people crave: stability and pride in his work. Case Study 3. Emily the caregiver. Emily is 26 and works as an assistant at a daycare. Her IQ is 75. School was always difficult for her, especially subjects that required abstract thinking. But she had a gift that no test could measure: a natural way with children. When Emily finished high school, she enrolled in a vocational program that trained her for childcare. She learned how to supervise playtime, prepare snacks, and follow safety procedures. At first, she struggled with paperwork and the state regulations that required lots of reading. But with guidance from her instructors and plenty of practice, she got the hang of it. Today, Emily works full-time. The children adore her. Parents praise her patience and kindness. Her boss says she brings warmth and energy to the daycare every day. What Emily lacks in academic achievement, she makes up for with empathy and reliability. She has found a place where her strengths shine. And that makes all the difference. The family perspective. Behind these individual stories, families often play a central role. Parents of children in the 70 to 85 IQ range sometimes describe their journey as confusing at first. Their child doesn't quite need the intensive support of special education for severe disabilities. But they also can't keep up with peers without accommodations. This, in-between, space can be frustrating. Parents may feel caught between two worlds. One that expects too much and another that doesn't offer enough help. They worry about the future. Will their child be able to hold a job? Live independently? Find a partner? Yet many families also talk about the joy of watching their child carve out a path uniquely their own. They celebrate the practical wins. The first paycheck. The first solo bus ride. The first time cooking dinner without help. These milestones, though ordinary to others, are extraordinary to them. Community and belonging. Community plays a big role in the lives of people at this level. When schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods are inclusive, individuals with below-average intelligence thrive. A supportive teacher who takes time to explain. A patient manager who gives clear instructions. A friend who helps interpret confusing situations. These small acts make the difference between isolation and belonging. But when the community is unkind, when peers mock them, when employers dismiss them, when friends drift away, the struggle deepens. Too often, their difficulties are invisible, and people assume they're careless or lazy rather than recognizing the cognitive limits at play. This is why awareness matters. The more society understands what it means to live at this level of intelligence, the more doors can be opened instead of closed. What these stories show us. Looking at Sarah, Daniel, and Emily, a few truths emerge. Strengths thrive in structure, with routines, clear instructions, and hands-on learning. People in this range can succeed in meaningful ways. Independence is possible but fragile. Daily life can run smoothly, but unexpected disruptions often require help. Value is more than intellect. Patience, reliability, kindness. These traits often define their contributions far more than raw cognitive ability. These stories remind us that below-average intelligence is not the same as a lack of worth. It is simply a different way of moving through the world, slower in some areas, stronger in others. Closing thoughts. Life at level 2 is filled with both challenges and successes. The stories of students, workers, and caregivers show that while the path may be harder, it is far from hopeless. With support, patience, and opportunity, individuals in this range can build lives of independence, dignity, and connection. Their journeys remind us that intelligence is not a competition. It's a spectrum of human experience, and every point on that spectrum has its own lessons to teach. People at level 2, with IQs between 70 and 85, often live in a space that feels both ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. On the surface, they can appear very much like their peers. They can hold jobs, live independently, and participate in community life. But just beneath that surface lies a constant undercurrent of challenge. Moments where the world moves a little too fast, where decisions feel overwhelming, or where expectations outpace ability. This final section looks at those challenges head-on, but also highlights the opportunities and the lessons that their lives bring to families, workplaces, and society as a whole. The hidden struggles. The hardest part of living at level 2 is that many of the struggles are invisible. Unlike individuals with more severe intellectual disabilities, people in this range may not look like they need support. Teachers may expect them to keep up with classwork. Employers may expect them to adapt quickly to new tasks. And friends may expect them to follow fast-moving conversations. When they stumble, it's often misinterpreted as laziness, lack of effort, or even defiance. Imagine being in a job where instructions are vague. Handle this task the way you think is best. For someone at level 2, that's a recipe for confusion. They do best with clear directions, step-by-step guidance, and consistency. Ambiguity feels like a trap, and too often, they pay the price for it with frustration or failure. Decision-making is another challenge. Simple choices, what to eat for dinner, what clothes to wear, are manageable. But when choices grow more complicated, like weighing multiple job offers or making a financial plan, the cognitive strain can be overwhelming. Without guidance, they may make impulsive or short-sighted decisions that create long-term problems. The emotional toll. Living in this in-between space also carries an emotional weight. Many individuals in the 70 to 85 range are aware of their struggles. They notice that classmates finish tests faster, that coworkers solve problems more easily, that siblings excel where they falter. This self-awareness can lead to feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, or low self-esteem. Bullying and teasing compound the problem. Children at this level are particularly vulnerable in school settings, where peers may exploit their slower processing speed or concrete thinking. Adults face subtler forms of exclusion, being overlooked for promotions, left out of conversations, or dismissed when their input doesn't match the pace of others. The emotional toll isn't just frustration. It's the constant sense of being one step behind in a world that rewards speed, abstraction, and innovation, the strengths that shine. And yet, alongside the struggles are qualities that deserve equal attention. People at level 2 are often described as loyal, steady, and dependable. Employers frequently note that once trained, they follow routines carefully and rarely deviate. Families talk about their sincerity. When they say something, they mean it. Friends appreciate their warmth and straightforwardness. These strengths are particularly powerful in environments where reliability matters more than improvisation. A workplace that values consistency finds in them an anchor. A community that values inclusion discovers they bring a sense of authenticity and honesty that is refreshing. It's easy to underestimate these qualities in a world obsessed with quick thinking and clever ideas. But reliability and loyalty are just as important in building families, workplaces, and communities that last. Opportunities for growth. The key to unlocking potential at this level is environment. With the right supports, people in the 70 to 85 range can thrive far beyond what stereotypes suggest. Education, vocational programs, community colleges, and skills-based training allow students to learn in ways that fit their strengths, hands-on, practical, and directly tied to real-world outcomes. Employment. Structured jobs that provide clear expectations and repetition give them the chance to prove their reliability. With patient supervisors and step-by-step training, they can become some of the most consistent workers on a team. Independence. Tools like budgeting apps, public transportation training, and supportive housing arrangements can expand independence while keeping safety nets in place. Relationships. Guidance in communication, financial literacy, and decision-making can strengthen their ability to maintain friendships, romantic partnerships, and family roles. Every success story at this level is built on the same foundation: clear expectations, patient teaching, and communities that see value in different forms. The role of society. Society plays a decisive role in shaping whether people at this level flourish or flounder. A world that prizes only speed, intellect, and complexity leaves them behind. A world that values inclusion, patience, and reliability makes space for their contributions. Too often, people in this range fall through the cracks. They aren't disabled enough to qualify for certain services, but they also struggle too much to compete on equal terms with average peers. That no man's land of support can be devastating. Bridging this gap requires policies and programs that recognize their unique needs, specialized job coaching, accessible education, and inclusive community planning. When we make these investments, everyone benefits. Workplaces gain loyal employees, communities gain engaged citizens, families gain the reassurance that their loved ones have a place in the world. What Level 2 teaches us. The lives of people at Level 2 intelligence offer profound lessons about what it means to be human. They remind us that success is relative. For one person, success may be a college degree. For another, it may be holding a steady job for 5 years or learning to cook meals independently. Both are worthy of celebration. They show us the power of structure and patience. Growth happens not in giant leaps but in steady, repeated steps. They reveal the importance of value beyond intellect. Kindness, loyalty, and sincerity are qualities often undervalued in a culture obsessed with achievement, but they are essential for human connection. Most of all, they teach us that intelligence, while important, is not the only measure of a life well lived. Closing thoughts. Life at Level 2 is not without hardship. There are invisible struggles, emotional burdens, and moments when the world seems to demand too much. But there is also resilience, reliability, and dignity. With the right support, individuals at this level can live independently, work meaningfully, and form rich relationships. Their lives remind us of a simple truth. Human worth is not defined by test scores or intellectual categories. It is defined by the ability to contribute, to connect, and to find meaning. And in that sense, people at Level 2 live lives every bit as valuable as anyone else's. Most people live their lives here, right in the center of the curve, with IQs ranging between 85 and 115. This is what psychologists call average intelligence. But don't let the word average fool you. In everyday life, average intelligence is anything but dull. It's the engine that keeps society running. The teachers, the nurses, the construction workers, the office clerks, the parents raising families, the neighbors mowing lawns. When we picture intelligence, we often focus on the extremes. The child prodigy who solves equations at age 8. Or the individual with profound disabilities who requires constant care. But the truth is, most of the world is built by and for people right in the middle. Their thinking is practical, their problem-solving solid, and their ability to learn adaptable to the demands of modern life. Learning and problem-solving. At this level, people are capable of grasping both practical and abstract concepts. Though abstraction has limits, they can balance a checkbook, understand a contract, or follow a recipe with ease. They can also dip into more complex territory, basic algebra, philosophical ideas, or strategic planning, though not at the lightning speed of those at higher levels. Their strength lies in applied reasoning. Average intelligence allows someone to solve daily problems efficiently. How do I fix this leaky faucet? What's the best route to work if traffic is heavy? Should I refinance my mortgage? These aren't groundbreaking intellectual feats, but they require solid reasoning and decision-making. The learning process for this group is flexible. They can learn new skills through study, practice, or experience. They don't usually need as much repetition as those below them, nor do they absorb as effortlessly as those above them. But with effort, they can achieve competency in a wide range of areas. Work and careers. In the workforce, average intelligence is the backbone. People at this level make up the majority of employees across industries: healthcare workers, tradespeople, office staff, teachers, retail employees, drivers, technicians. They are capable of managing schedules, solving work-related problems, collaborating with colleagues, and even leading teams. They may not be the visionaries disrupting entire industries, but they are the ones keeping those industries running day after day. In fact, most essential workers, the ones who kept society functioning during crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, are people in this range. They don't need to reinvent systems. They just need to keep them alive and working. And that's no small task. relationships and social life. Socially, individuals at this level are highly capable of forming and maintaining relationships. They can understand humor, irony, and subtle social cues, even if they occasionally miss nuances. They can build friendships, fall in love, raise children, and navigate the complexities of family dynamics. One of the hallmarks of this group is consistency. They know how to keep routines, maintain connections, and contribute to community life. They might be the neighbor who organizes a block party, the parent who coaches a kid's soccer team, or the friend who always remembers birthdays. Their emotional intelligence, though not directly measured by IQ, tends to be practical and grounded. They may not psychoanalyze every interaction, but they understand enough to build trust and connection. Adaptability and growth. One of the advantages of average intelligence is adaptability. When faced with change, new technologies, new work environments, new life circumstances, they can adjust, though sometimes more slowly than those with higher IQs. Take smartphones, for example. When they first appeared, some people picked them up instantly, exploring every feature, hacking productivity, and creating apps. Others resisted, struggling to adapt. Most people, though, eventually found a middle ground, learning what they needed, ignoring the rest, and integrating the tool into their lives. That's average intelligence at work: practical, steady, adaptable within limits, blind spots and weaknesses. Of course, there are weaknesses too. One common blind spot is overconfidence. Because people in this range are competent in so many areas, they sometimes assume they know more than they do. They may underestimate complex problems or oversimplify situations. Another weakness is the risk of complacency. Average intelligence can create a sense of good enough. Why push for deeper understanding if things are already working fine? This can lead to missed opportunities for growth or innovation. And while average intelligence is perfectly suited to most of life's demands, it can struggle in high-pressure, fast-changing, or highly abstract situations. A sudden crisis requiring quick improvisation may overwhelm. A highly technical job requiring advanced theory may be out of reach. These aren't failures. They're simply the natural limits of the range. The human meaning of average. The word average sometimes carries an unfair sting. In a culture obsessed with excellence and achievement, nobody wants to be called average. But in truth, average intelligence is what makes the world work. It balances ambition with stability, creativity with practicality. It's the steady rhythm of society, the heartbeat that keeps things moving forward without burning out. Most of us live right here in this middle space. We may dream big, but our daily lives are built on problem solving that is practical, consistent, and grounded. And there's beauty in that. There's dignity in raising a family, working a job, and showing up for a community. Average intelligence doesn't make headlines, but it makes homes, friendships, schools, and neighborhoods. Without it, the extraordinary would have no foundation to stand on. Level 3. The world of average intelligence isn't about brilliance or limitation. It's about balance. People in this range can reason, adapt, learn, and contribute in ways that make society possible. They are capable of love, loyalty, responsibility, and growth. If Level 1 and Level 2 show us resilience in the face of challenge, Level 3 shows us the power of steady, reliable competence. It's the reminder that while we often celebrate the extraordinary, it's the ordinary that sustains us. Average intelligence makes up the majority of humanity, but because it's so common, it's often overlooked. We rarely pause to notice how people in this range navigate life. Yet their stories reveal the heart of everyday human experience. These are the people who keep schools running, raise families, keep small businesses alive, and build communities. Their lives may not be marked by extremes, but they are full of meaning. Case Study 1. Michael the mechanic. Michael is 38 and works at a local auto repair shop. With an IQ measured at 95, he sits comfortably in the average range. School was never his favorite place. He struggled with abstract math and hated writing essays. but when it came to hands-on work, he thrived. After high school, Michael apprenticed under his uncle, who owned a small garage. He learned by watching, repeating, and eventually mastering the basics: changing oil, rotating tires, diagnosing simple engine problems. Over the years, he's become the go-to guy for reliable, affordable car repairs in his town. Michael doesn't reinvent engines or design new automotive systems. That's the job of engineers at higher levels of intelligence. But he doesn't need to. His strength is in applying practical knowledge day after day, keeping people on the road. His customers trust him, not because he's a genius, but because he's steady, honest, and skilled. Case study 2. Jenna, the teacher's aide. Jenna, 27, works as a teacher's aide in an elementary school. Her IQ of 100 puts her right in the middle of the bell curve. She was never the star student growing up, but she wasn't at the bottom either. She worked hard, passed her classes, and graduated with average grades. What makes Jenna special is not her raw cognitive ability but her consistency and patience. She helps children with reading practice, organizes classroom supplies, and supports the lead teacher during lessons. When kids get restless, Jenna knows how to redirect their energy. When a child struggles with a worksheet, she breaks it down into smaller, manageable steps. She may not write groundbreaking research on education, but in the classroom, her role is indispensable. The teacher relies on her, the students trust her, and the parents appreciate her presence. Without Jenna, the classroom simply wouldn't run as smoothly. Case study 3. Carlos, the father. Carlos is 45, married with 2 children. His IQ is 90. He works as a delivery driver, a job that suits his strengths, following routes, managing schedules, and maintaining reliability. At home, Carlos is a devoted father. He helps with homework, though when math problems get tricky, he hands them off to his wife. He builds furniture from IKEA with determination, sometimes with a few extra screws left over. And he teaches his kids how to ride their bikes. Carlos may not analyze political theories or write novels, but he is raising children who feel loved, safe, and cared for. In a world obsessed with achievement, Carlos reminds us that intelligence isn't the only measure of a good life. What matters more is responsibility, presence, and love. The workplace perspective. Employers often notice the steady reliability of workers with average intelligence. They may not always be the fastest problem solvers, but they are dependable team players. Consider a retail store. The star salesperson may dazzle with charisma, but it's the average employees who stock shelves, run the registers, and keep the place organized. Consider a hospital. Surgeons may make headlines, but it's the nurses, aides, and technicians, most of them in the average intelligence range, who keep patients cared for day and night. In many ways, workplaces run not because of the outliers but because of the middle. The family perspective. Families with average intelligence look like most families you know. Parents guide children through school. Teens navigate friendships and part-time jobs. And grandparents share wisdom built over decades of lived experience. Their intelligence may not be remarkable on paper, but it's enough to manage households, pay bills, and build traditions. One mother describes her life raising 3 kids while working as a receptionist. "I don't think of myself as especially smart," she says, "but I know how to keep things together, make sure homework gets done. Meals are cooked, bills are paid. That's enough for me." Her words capture something profound. Average intelligence sustains family life. It doesn't need to be dazzling. It just needs to be steady. The social dimension. In friendships, average intelligence shows up as relatability. People in this range can enjoy casual conversations, follow jokes, debate sports, talk about movies, and share stories from work. They may not dive into abstract philosophy, but they know how to connect. This social competence is part of why average intelligence dominates community life. They are the volunteers who organize bake sales, the neighbors who shovel driveways after a snowstorm, the friends who bring casseroles after a loss. Their intelligence isn't measured in IQ points but in acts of kindness that keep social fabric intact. When average meets the extraordinary. Sometimes, people at this level find themselves working alongside individuals at higher or lower levels of intelligence. These encounters highlight both strengths and limitations. A college professor may push beyond their understanding in abstract discussions, leaving them lost, but in turn, they may ground the professor's lofty ideas with practical concerns. That sounds great in theory. But how would it actually work? With those below them in intelligence, they often become the teachers, helpers, or protectors, explaining things patiently, guiding routines, or defending them against teasing. In this way, average intelligence serves as a bridge between the extremes, connecting different parts of society. The invisible value of average intelligence. Because average intelligence is so common, it's easy to overlook, but when you strip it away, society falls apart. Without people like Michael, cars would stay broken. Without people like Jenna, classrooms would collapse. Without people like Carlos, children would grow up without steady parents. Their stories prove that average doesn't mean mediocre. It means essential. It means reliable. It means the pulse of daily life. Closing thoughts. The stories of Michael, Jenna, and Carlos remind us that life at level 3 is not about extremes, it's about balance. Average intelligence provides enough reasoning for independence, enough adaptability for change, and enough competence for contribution. In a culture that idolizes outliers, it's worth remembering that the world doesn't survive on brilliance alone. It survives because ordinary people do ordinary things, day after day, with care and consistency, and that, perhaps, is extraordinary in its own right. When people think about intelligence, they often picture the extremes. On one end are the geniuses who make headlines for inventing new technologies or solving impossible problems. On the other are those with significant intellectual disabilities who need constant care. But the truth is, most of us live somewhere in the middle, with IQs between 85 and 115. People at level 3 represent the heart of humanity. This middle ground brings with it both advantages and vulnerabilities. It offers the tools needed to build a stable life, but it also comes with blind spots that can trip people up in ways they might not even notice. Understanding these challenges and opportunities helps us appreciate the role average intelligence plays in shaping not just individuals, but entire societies. The subtle challenges of the middle. At first glance, people with average intelligence seem perfectly equipped for modern life, and in many ways, they are. But this range comes with unique challenges that often fly under the radar. One is overconfidence. Because people at this level can grasp most everyday concepts, they sometimes assume they understand more than they do. A person who balances their household budget may believe they understand economics. Someone who reads a few articles online may assume they've mastered a complex scientific issue. This tendency can lead to misinformation, stubbornness, and poor decision-making, not out of malice, but out of misplaced certainty. Another challenge is complacency. Average intelligence is good enough for most life tasks. You can earn a degree, hold a job, raise a family, and participate in community life. But because life feels manageable, there's less push to stretch beyond comfort zones. Growth often requires deliberate effort, and without it, people can settle into patterns that limit their potential. Finally, there's the challenge of stress in high-pressure situations. While average intelligence handles routine tasks well, it can struggle when problems become layered and abstract. A sudden crisis at work, a complex legal issue, or a rapidly changing technological environment can overwhelm. These situations often reveal the boundaries of this range. Competent, yes, but not limitless. The strengths that keep society running. Despite these challenges, the strengths of average intelligence are immense. They may not shine as brightly as genius, but they shine consistently, and that consistency is what sustains the world. Practical problem solving. People in this range are skilled at applying knowledge to daily issues. They may not invent new machines, but they fix them. They may not write laws, but they follow them responsibly. Adaptability. While not as fast as higher IQ individuals, they can adjust to new tools, environments, and social expectations with enough time and practice. Social understanding. They can read emotional cues, maintain friendships, and contribute to communities in ways that bring people together. Balance. Average intelligence is versatile. It isn't so specialized that it alienates others, nor so limited that it blocks participation. This balance allows them to bridge gaps between the highly gifted and those who struggle more profoundly. Opportunities in the ordinary. For people in this range, opportunity doesn't usually come from groundbreaking discoveries. It comes from stability and reliability. In education, they can pursue a wide variety of paths. Some may attend universities, while others may focus on trades or vocational training. Both routes are valid and can lead to fulfilling careers. In the workplace, they often shine as dependable employees. They may not become CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, but they form the bulk of nurses, teachers, electricians, small business owners, and public servants who make society function. In family life, their opportunity lies in creating stable homes, raising children, maintaining households, and supporting extended families. These contributions rarely make headlines, but they shape generations. The emotional landscape. Emotionally, people in this range live rich and varied lives. They experience love, ambition, frustration, and pride just like anyone else. But one subtle challenge they face is the comparison trap. Looking upward, they may feel overshadowed by those who seem smarter, faster, or more successful. Looking downward, they may feel pressured to set an example or take on responsibility for those who struggle more. These comparisons can create quiet insecurity, even when life appears stable on the outside. The antidote often comes through relationships. Strong families, supportive friendships, and encouraging workplaces remind individuals that their worth isn't defined by IQ but by their humanity. Reliability and contributions. What society learns from the average. If society listens closely, people at level 3 have important lessons to teach. Consistency matters more than flash. A community doesn't survive on brilliance alone. It survives because ordinary people do ordinary things well, day after day. Practical wisdom is powerful. You don't need to be a genius to make wise decisions. Sometimes lived experience and steady judgment matter more than abstract theory. Dignity in the everyday. Raising children, paying bills, caring for neighbors. These tasks don't sound glamorous, but they build the fabric of society. Average intelligence teaches us that life doesn't have to be extraordinary to be meaningful. It can be steady, grounded, and deeply fulfilling. The broader human meaning. At its heart, level 3 intelligence challenges our cultural obsession with being exceptional. In a world where everyone is pushed to stand out, average intelligence whispers a different truth. That value is not always about being the best, but about showing up, contributing, and caring. It reminds us that greatness isn't just found in Nobel Prizes or Fortune 500 companies. It's also found in classrooms where teachers patiently guide children, in homes where parents work tirelessly for their families, and in communities where neighbors look out for each other. To live at this level of intelligence is to embody the steady rhythm of humanity. It is to represent the majority, the balance, the reliable core that everything else rests upon. Closing thoughts. Life at level 3 is filled with both challenges and opportunities. The challenges are subtle, overconfidence, complacency, and struggles under pressure. The opportunities are steady, stable work, meaningful relationships, and reliable contributions. If the lower levels of intelligence show us resilience against difficulty, and the higher levels show us brilliance in breaking barriers, then average intelligence shows us something equally vital, the beauty of balance. In the end, level 3 reminds us that human worth isn't about standing at the edges of the spectrum. It's about what happens in the middle, in the everyday acts of living, working, and loving that hold the world together. Level 4. Above average intelligence. IQ 115 to 130. Most people live in the middle of the bell curve, but a smaller group stands just above it. Individuals with IQs between 115 and 130. They're not quite at the level of genius, but they learn faster, think more flexibly, and recognize patterns more quickly than the majority. In schools, they're the students who finish assignments before everyone else. In workplaces, they're often the ones who pick up new systems effortlessly while others are still trying to understand the basics. Above average intelligence isn't about being better than everyone else. It's about seeing the world with a slightly sharper lens. These individuals often process information more efficiently, connect ideas across different areas, and step naturally into roles that require problem solving. But with these strengths also come new challenges: impatience, boredom, and sometimes the quiet frustration of feeling out of sync with others. Learning and cognitive style. At this level, learning comes quickly. Concepts that might take the average student a week to grasp often click in a single lesson. Memorization is easier, and understanding tends to go beyond the surface. For example, a student with above average intelligence doesn't just learn the formula for solving a math problem. They see why the formula works and how it connects to other ideas. They also excel at pattern recognition, whether it's spotting trends in data, noticing themes in literature, or picking up on subtle shifts in a social conversation. Their minds move naturally toward connections. This makes them especially good at problem solving and strategic thinking. But speed can also create problems. Because they understand quickly, they may grow restless waiting for others to catch up. Classrooms can feel slow. Meetings can feel repetitive. Their biggest academic challenge often isn't comprehension but staying engaged when the pace doesn't match their own. Work and careers. In the workplace, above average intelligence often shows up as versatility. These individuals adapt quickly to new systems, learn software with ease, and can often juggle multiple responsibilities at once. They may rise into leadership roles, not necessarily because they crave power, but because they can see both the big picture and the small details. They often thrive in jobs that require analysis, planning, or problem solving. Law, engineering, project management, research, education. But they can also shine in creative fields, writing, design, marketing, because their ability to connect ideas leads to fresh insights. Still, there's a flip side. Routine work can feel tedious, and environments that value conformity over innovation can feel stifling. For someone whose brain works a little faster, the greatest challenge isn't doing the work, it's staying interested. Relationships and social life. Socially, people in this range are fully capable of forming strong, healthy relationships. They understand humor, subtlety, and complex dynamics in friendships and romance. Their above-average pattern recognition often helps them read people well, noticing things others miss. But this can also create friction, because they often see solutions quickly. They may grow impatient when others don't. In group projects, they may feel the urge to take control rather than wait for the team to figure things out. In relationships, they may feel frustrated when a partner struggles to follow their line of thought. At their best, they use their intelligence to uplift others, explaining clearly, guiding patiently, and helping groups move forward. At their worst, they risk coming across as arrogant or dismissive if they don't manage their impatience. Adaptability and growth. One of the great strengths of above-average intelligence is adaptability. When technology changes, when industries shift, when life throws a curveball, these individuals often adjust more easily than most. Their ability to learn quickly and connect ideas gives them a natural edge in navigating uncertainty. That said, adaptability doesn't always mean resilience. A sharp mind can still be fragile when faced with failure. In fact, people at this level sometimes struggle more with setbacks precisely because they're used to things coming easily. When effort is finally required, they can feel shaken, doubting themselves more than someone who has faced struggle all along. Blind spots and weaknesses. With above average intelligence comes a set of blind spots that can complicate life. Impatience. They often think faster than others, leading to frustration with slower group dynamics. Boredom. Routine tasks can feel stifling, making it harder to sustain focus in environments that don't challenge them. Perfectionism. Because they're capable of high performance, they may set unrealistic expectations for themselves and others. Disconnect. Their pace of thought can sometimes create distance from peers, leaving them feeling out of sync. These blind spots don't erase their strengths, but they highlight the importance of emotional intelligence, patience, and humility as balancing forces. The human meaning of above average. Living at level 4 isn't about being brilliant. It's about having a slight edge that changes the way life unfolds. It means learning faster, connecting dots more easily, and often stepping into roles of responsibility. But it also means facing the quiet challenge of staying grounded in a world that doesn't always move at the same speed. Above average intelligence can be a gift when paired with empathy, patience, and resilience. Without those, it risks turning into frustration or isolation. The meaning of life at this level, then, isn't just about using one's intellect. It's about learning how to connect with others, to slow down when needed, and to remember that intelligence is only one part of being human. Level 4 intelligence sits at a fascinating point in the spectrum, not so high as to be alienating, not so low as to be limiting. It's a space of potential, where learning is fast, problem solving comes naturally, and leadership often follows. But it's also a space that requires balance, patience, and humility to avoid the pitfalls of boredom and impatience. At its best, above-average intelligence serves as a bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary, grounded enough to relate to the average person, sharp enough to inspire growth and change. It's easy to talk about above-average intelligence in the abstract: quick learning, sharper pattern recognition, faster problem-solving. But these traits only come alive when we see them in action, in the lives of real people. At this level, intelligence doesn't usually make headlines. It doesn't result in Nobel Prizes or earth-shattering inventions. Instead, it shapes everyday successes, subtle advantages, and the quiet frustrations of living just a little bit ahead of the curve. Case Study 1. Olivia, the law student. Olivia is 22, studying law at a state university. She's not the top of her class, but she consistently earns strong grades. With an IQ of 125, she learns quickly, especially when the material involves logic and structure. While some classmates reread case law multiple times, Olivia grasps the key arguments after 1 or 2 passes. She sees patterns in rulings, notices small but important details, and connects them to broader principles. Professors describe her as sharp and engaged, though sometimes a bit impatient when discussions drag on. Outside of class, Olivia struggles with downtime. She feels restless when tasks move too slowly or when her peers don't share her pace of thought. In group projects, she often takes the lead, not because she's domineering, but because she feels the urge to get it done right. Olivia's story highlights a common theme at this level: efficiency paired with impatience. She excels where structure and clarity exist, but she must learn patience and humility to thrive in slower, messier environments. Case Study 2. Marcus, the engineer. Marcus is 35 and works as a civil engineer. With an IQ of 120, he's above average, but not in the genius range. His strength lies in problem-solving under structured conditions. When a city project requires designing a new bridge, Marcus doesn't just follow formulas. He sees the bigger picture. He anticipates potential weak points, considers the flow of traffic, and visualizes how the structure will age over decades. While colleagues may focus narrowly on one aspect, Marcus naturally connects details across the entire project. At work, he's respected not only for his technical skills but also for his ability to explain complex ideas in plain language. Coworkers often come to him for clarity, because he can translate abstract designs into practical terms. But Marcus also knows his limits. When projects involve heavy bureaucracy or slow decision-making, he gets frustrated. It's not the engineering that's hard, he says. It's waiting for everyone else to catch up. His strength lies in clarity of thought, but the world around him doesn't always move at his speed. Case Study 3. Hannah the entrepreneur. Hannah, 29, runs a small marketing firm. With an IQ of 118, she doesn't consider herself a genius, but her ability to see connections gives her an edge in business. While others struggle to spot trends, Hannah notices them early. She sees how social media patterns shift, predicts which campaigns will resonate, and adjusts her strategies faster than competitors. Her clients praise her intuition, but it's really her above-average intelligence at work. The ability to recognize patterns and act on them quickly. Still, Hannah sometimes battles overextension. Because she learns quickly, she takes on too much, assuming she can handle it all. She has to remind herself to slow down, delegate, and not burn out. Her intelligence opens doors, but it also tempts her into thinking she can do everything at once. The family perspective. Above-average intelligence often shows up early in families. Parents notice that a child in this range picks up reading faster than siblings, solves puzzles more quickly, or asks surprisingly deep questions at a young age. Teachers may comment that the child finishes worksheets first or seems bored when material is too easy. But this also comes with challenges. Parents sometimes struggle to keep their child engaged, balancing the need for challenge without overwhelming them. A child who learns quickly may become restless in average classrooms, leading to boredom or behavioral issues. The solution often lies in enrichment, books, activities, or hobbies that stretch their abilities without isolating them. The workplace perspective. In workplaces, above-average employees often stand out, not always as stars, but as quietly competent problem solvers. They're the ones who figure out the new software before everyone else, who spot inefficiencies in workflows, who troubleshoot problems without needing much help. Managers appreciate their initiative but sometimes struggle with their impatience. An above-average employee may get bored with repetitive tasks, pushing for more responsibility before they're officially ready. They may also resist environments that feel stagnant, seeking out roles that challenge their minds. Still, when properly supported, they often become the backbone of teams, capable of bridging the gap between average workers and high-level specialists. The social dimension. Socially, above-average intelligence has its quirks. Friends often turn to them for advice, trusting their ability to see situations clearly. They may excel in conversations that involve analysis, debate, or strategy. But there's a risk too. Because they often see solutions faster, they may unintentionally come across as condescending or impatient. A friend struggling with a problem may want empathy, but the above-average mind jumps to offering quick fixes. This can create tension if not balanced with emotional awareness. At their best, they become natural leaders in social groups, not because they demand it, but because others recognize their insight. At their worst, they may alienate people by pushing too hard or moving too quickly. Invisible advantages. Above-average intelligence often works in the background, unnoticed. A student breezes through a subject while others struggle. An employee adapts to a new system without complaint. A friend always seems to just know the right answer. These advantages aren't flashy, but they accumulate over time. They lead to higher academic achievement, smoother career progression, and often greater confidence in handling life's curveballs. But because the advantages are subtle, they can also create blind spots. People at this level may assume their ease is universal, underestimating the struggles of those below them. The stories of Olivia, Marcus, and Hannah show what above-average intelligence looks like in real life. It's not about brilliance or genius, it's about efficiency, pattern recognition, and quick learning. These qualities create advantages in school, work, and life, but they also bring challenges, impatience, overextension, and frustration with slower systems. Above average intelligence is a gift, but like all gifts, it requires balance, paired with humility and patience. It can make someone not just effective but inspiring. Without those, it risks turning into arrogance or burnout. In the end, people in this range remind us that intelligence is not just about raw ability, it's about how you use it and how you connect it to the world around you. Living with above average intelligence is a unique experience. It doesn't set someone so far apart that they seem alien, like geniuses often do, but it does set them just far enough ahead to notice differences in how they learn, think, and interact. People in this range occupy a fascinating middle ground. They're sharper and quicker than most, but still connected enough to the average person to be relatable. Their lives are marked by opportunities to thrive, but also by frustrations that come from moving slightly faster than the world around them. The subtle challenges of being one step ahead. One of the biggest challenges for people at this level is impatience. They process ideas quickly, grasping concepts long before others in the room. While their classmates or coworkers are still piecing things together, they're already thinking 2 steps ahead. This creates a temptation to interrupt, rush, or take over. It's not arrogance so much as restlessness, but if left unchecked, it can strain relationships and make collaboration harder. Another challenge is boredom. Routine tasks, repetitive lessons, or slow-moving projects can feel like torture. An above-average mind craves stimulation, and without it, focus slips away. Some compensate by multitasking, while others disengage entirely, appearing distracted or unmotivated. In truth, the problem isn't laziness. It's that the pace of life often feels mismatched to their mental speed. Then there's perfectionism. Because they can often do things well, they expect themselves to always excel. Mistakes feel heavier, not because they're catastrophic, but because they conflict with their self-image of being smart enough to know better. This pressure can lead to stress, anxiety, or avoidance of risks. The emotional landscape. Above average intelligence comes with a subtle emotional weight. People at this level are smart enough to notice patterns, to see flaws in systems, and to anticipate problems before they arrive, but they're not always in positions of authority to fix them. This creates frustration, the sense of knowing how something could be better, but being unable to change it. Socially, they often walk a fine line. Friends may appreciate their quick wit and insight, but also feel overshadowed if they dominate conversations. Romantic partners may admire their sharpness but feel frustrated by their impatience. Emotional intelligence becomes essential here. The ability to slow down, listen, and connect without rushing to the solution. Opportunities for growth and success. Despite these challenges, above-average intelligence offers rich opportunities. In education, people at this level can excel in higher education, often thriving in fields that combine structure with creativity, law, business, engineering, medicine, the arts. They may not always be top of the class, but they're usually strong performers, capable of balancing theory and application. In careers, their quick learning and problem-solving skills make them valuable employees. They adapt quickly to new technologies, grasp complex procedures, and often step naturally into leadership roles. Many mid-level managers, entrepreneurs, and professionals fall in this range, not necessarily changing the world, but running it. In personal life, their ability to see patterns and anticipate outcomes helps them navigate relationships, finances, and life planning with greater ease. They may avoid certain pitfalls because they can see them coming earlier than others. Bridging the gap. One of the most important roles people at this level play is that of a bridge. They can understand the needs of average intelligence while also resonating with the insights of higher intelligence. This makes them excellent communicators, translators of complex ideas, and connectors in diverse groups. Think of a workplace team. The genius who dreams up new systems may be hard to follow, while the average worker may struggle to catch the vision. The above-average person can sit in the middle, understanding enough of the vision to explain it, while keeping it practical enough to apply. In this way, they hold society together, not as outliers, but as connectors, blind spots to watch for. Like every level of intelligence, this one comes with blind spots. Overconfidence, because they learn quickly. They sometimes assume they know more than they do, dismissing expertise too easily. Frustration with others. They may underestimate the struggles of average intelligence, forgetting that what feels easy to them isn't universal. Undervaluing effort. Things often come quickly, so when they don't, they may give up too soon. Building resilience requires learning that not everything will be instant. Recognizing these blind spots is key to growth. With self-awareness, people in this range can turn potential weaknesses into strengths. The human meaning of above average. The deeper meaning of life at level 4 lies in balance. People here are sharp enough to notice what others miss, but still grounded enough to relate to everyday experiences. They embody the tension between speed and patience, potential and humility, stimulation and boredom. Their lives remind us that intelligence isn't just about ability, it's about how ability is used. Above average intelligence can lead to impatience, arrogance, and burnout, but it can also lead to leadership, insight, and innovation when tempered with empathy. Lessons for the rest of us. What can society learn from people at this level? Patience with pace. Life doesn't always move at the speed of thought, and sometimes slowing down creates deeper connections. The value of translation. Explaining complex ideas in accessible ways is just as valuable as generating them. Humility and ability. Being smarter than average doesn't mean being superior. True intelligence shows in how we treat those who think differently. Closing thoughts. Above average intelligence is often overlooked, overshadowed by both extremes, but it is here, in this range, that we see the seeds of leadership, the adaptability of problem solvers, and the quiet frustrations of moving just a little faster than the crowd. Life at level 4 is not about brilliance, it's about potential. It's about recognizing patterns, adapting quickly, and finding ways to stay engaged in a world that doesn't always match your speed. And when balanced with empathy and humility, it becomes a force not just for personal success, but for the good of communities and society as a whole. Level 5. High intelligence. IQ 130 to 145. Step further up the scale of human intelligence, and you reach a place where thinking begins to look different. Individuals with IQs between 130 and 145 are considered highly intelligent. They are not just quicker than average, they are capable of more complex reasoning, more abstract thought, and a deeper ability to connect ideas across domains. This is the range where gifted programs in schools often start, and where adults tend to stand out in professional and social circles. People at this level often live with a sense of being a step ahead. They see patterns before others notice them, solve problems faster, and grasp advanced concepts with fewer repetitions. While most people need practice to internalize new information, those in this range often need only exposure. It's not uncommon for them to understand a book, lesson, or system after a single encounter. But as with every level of intelligence, the gift comes with its own set of challenges. High intelligence creates opportunities for achievement, yet it also brings pressures, misunderstandings, and sometimes a quiet loneliness. Learning and cognitive style. At this level, learning can feel almost effortless. A teenager with an IQ of 135 may read a chapter in physics and intuitively understand principles that classmates struggle with. A musician may hear a piece once and reproduce it with near-perfect accuracy. A young adult may absorb programming languages in weeks that take peers months. The difference lies in abstract reasoning. People in this range don't just memorize, they see structures and systems behind the facts. They understand not only the how, but the why, and they can often manipulate concepts creatively to produce new solutions. This ability extends to problem solving. When confronted with a challenge, they don't just follow steps, they restructure the problem, reframing it until the answer emerges. Where others may get stuck, they find a new angle. Work and careers. In professional life, high intelligence often propels people into advanced roles. They excel in fields that demand analytical thinking, complex planning, or rapid learning. Law, science, technology, academia, finance, medicine. They can also thrive in creative fields like writing, design, or the arts, where their ability to connect disparate ideas creates originality. Many rise into leadership positions, not always because they seek them, but because their clarity of thought attracts responsibility. Colleagues notice that they grasp issues quickly, anticipate problems, and often offer the most effective solutions. But high intelligence also comes with restlessness. Routine jobs can feel suffocating. Red tape and bureaucracy are frustrating. For someone whose mind races ahead, slow systems feel like obstacles rather than safeguards. They often seek careers that allow autonomy, innovation, and intellectual challenge. Relationships and social life. Socially, highly intelligent people live in two worlds. On one hand, they are perfectly capable of forming deep, meaningful relationships. They understand nuance, humor, and emotion. They can be witty, insightful, and charismatic. On the other hand, they sometimes struggle with relatability. Their pace of thought, their interests, and their depth of analysis may set them apart from peers. In school, a child with high intelligence may feel bored with age mates, gravitating instead toward adults or older students. As adults, they may crave friends or partners who can keep up with fast-moving conversations, which narrows their social pool. This mismatch can lead to feelings of isolation, even when surrounded by people. At their best, they use their intelligence to uplift others, explaining clearly, supporting patiently, and building bridges. At their worst, impatience or arrogance can creep in, creating distance instead of connection. Adaptability and growth. High intelligence brings remarkable adaptability. New technologies, shifting industries, or unexpected challenges are met with curiosity rather than fear. A person at this level often learns new skills quickly, reshaping themselves to meet the moment. But adaptability has a hidden cost. Because things often come easily, setbacks can sting harder. Someone used to excelling may not know how to handle failure. They may struggle with persistence when effort, not just talent, is required. Growth for these individuals often means learning resilience, humility, and the value of struggle. Blind spots and weaknesses. Even at this level, intelligence doesn't guarantee perfection. Impatience. Fast thinking can lead to frustration with slower systems or slower people. Overcommitment. Quick learners sometimes take on too much, assuming they can handle everything. Isolation. A sharper mind can make it harder to connect socially, leading to feelings of being different. Pressure. Being labeled gifted or smart often creates expectations that feel crushing. These blind spots highlight the truth that intelligence is a tool, not a guarantee of happiness. Managing it well requires emotional awareness and balance. The human meaning of high intelligence. High intelligence can feel like both a gift and a burden. It allows a person to excel quickly, to solve problems others can't, to see opportunities hidden in complexity. But it also means living with heightened expectations, both from themselves and from society. The deeper meaning of life at this level lies in balance. Intelligence is powerful, but it is only one part of being human. Relationships, empathy, resilience, and humility matter just as much. Without them, intelligence risks turning into arrogance or burnout. With them, it becomes a force not only for personal success but for the benefit of others. Level 5 intelligence represents the threshold of giftedness. People in this range are quick learners, creative thinkers, and problem solvers who often excel in their chosen fields. But they also face challenges, impatience, pressure, and the loneliness of feeling different. At its best, high intelligence is a tool for growth, innovation, and contribution. At its worst, it can become a source of stress and isolation. The true challenge for individuals at this level is not in learning quickly, but in learning how to live fully, with patience, balance, and connection. High intelligence doesn't just show up in test scores. It reveals itself in the way people learn, the way they solve problems, and the way they experience the world. At this level, life often moves at a different pace, faster, sharper, sometimes more demanding. To understand what this looks like in practice, let's step into the lives of people who live in this range, their strengths, their struggles, and the ways they navigate the opportunities and pressures that come with being the smart one. Case Study 1. Rachel, the gifted teen. Rachel is 16 and has an IQ of 138. From an early age, she stood out. While her classmates were learning the alphabet, she was already reading chapter books. By middle school, she was writing essays that sounded like college-level work. Teachers labeled her gifted, and she was placed in accelerated classes. On the surface, Rachel seems like the model student. She picks up concepts instantly, rarely studies for tests, and still scores at the top. But behind the scenes, things aren't always so smooth. She gets frustrated when teachers repeat material she already knows. She struggles to connect with peers who don't share her interests, often feeling isolated. And because success has always come easily, she panics when she finally encounters real difficulty. Rachel's story highlights a common pattern among highly intelligent teenagers: early excellence paired with social and emotional challenges. Her path forward will depend not just on academic opportunities, but on learning patience, resilience, and connection. Case Study 2. David, the doctor. David is 42 and works as a neurologist. With an IQ of 132, he excelled in school, breezing through science courses and earning top marks in medical school. His colleagues describe him as quick on his feet, able to diagnose complex conditions with remarkable accuracy. Patients often remark that he explains things in a way that makes them feel both understood and reassured. But David also feels the weight of his intelligence. From childhood, his family expected greatness. Every success was celebrated, but every misstep felt magnified. "You're too smart to make mistakes," his father used to say. That pressure followed him into adulthood. Even now, he feels he must always be right, always deliver, always live up to the label of brilliant. David thrives professionally, but personally, he wrestles with burnout. The same mind that makes him an excellent doctor also makes it hard for him to switch off, to let go, to rest. His story shows the double-edged sword of high intelligence. It opens doors but also piles on expectations that can be exhausting to carry. Case Study 3. Maya, the entrepreneur. Maya, 31, started her own tech company. With an IQ of 135, she has a natural gift for seeing opportunities others miss. While working at a software firm, she noticed inefficiencies in project management tools. Instead of just complaining, she sketched out her own solution and eventually turned it into a startup. Her quick learning and ability to connect ideas gave her an advantage in the fast-moving tech world. She could sit in a meeting, listen to customer complaints, and immediately start mapping out how to address them with new features. Investors were impressed by her clarity and speed. But Maya's intelligence also led to overextension. She assumed she could manage every part of her company: product design, marketing, finances, because she picked things up so quickly. For a while, she managed, but as the company grew, the cracks showed. She had to learn the hard lesson of delegation. Intelligence doesn't replace teamwork. Today, her company is thriving, but only because Maya learned to balance her sharpness with humility, leaning on others instead of trying to do it all alone. The family perspective. For families, raising a highly intelligent child can be both exciting and overwhelming. Parents often describe amazement at how quickly their child learns, memorizing maps, playing instruments by ear, or asking profound questions long before their peers. But they also talk about the challenges: boredom in school, difficulty relating to other kids, or emotional intensity that seems beyond their years. Siblings of highly intelligent children sometimes feel overshadowed. She's the genius, a brother might say, and I'm just normal. Families must navigate not only the gifted child's needs but also the balance of attention and validation for everyone. At its best, a supportive family creates space for the gifted child to thrive without crushing them under expectations. At its worst, pressure to constantly excel can lead to anxiety, perfectionism, or rebellion. The workplace perspective. In the workplace, people with high intelligence often rise quickly. They're the ones who anticipate problems before they happen, who streamline processes, who generate solutions others hadn't considered. Supervisors see them as assets, and colleagues often look to them for guidance. But this can also create tension. Coworkers may feel overshadowed or intimidated. Leaders may pile on responsibilities, assuming the smart one can handle anything. If not careful, workplaces can exploit intelligence, pushing highly capable employees into burnout. The best environments recognize not just what these individuals can do, but also what they need: challenge, autonomy, and respect, balanced with realistic expectations. The social dimension. Socially, high intelligence is a mixed experience. Friends often admire their insights and turn to them for advice. They may be the go-to person for solving problems or entangling complicated issues. But this can also create distance. If conversations always tilt toward analysis and solutions, friends may feel less heard, more managed than supported. Romantic relationships add another layer. Highly intelligent people often crave partners who can keep up with fast-moving conversations, challenge their thinking, and share their curiosity. When they find that, relationships can be deeply fulfilling. But if mismatched, frustration arises. One partner feels left behind. The other feels unchallenged. Invisible struggles. One of the most misunderstood aspects of high intelligence is the invisible struggle. Outsiders assume life must be easy. You're smart. Everything comes naturally. But intelligence doesn't erase emotional needs, self-doubt, or fear of failure. In fact, those with high intelligence often wrestle with the pressure of expectations, both from themselves and from others. They may feel isolated, misunderstood, or even guilty for not achieving more. They may downplay their struggles, fearing they'll disappoint, and they may carry the quiet burden of always being seen as the capable one, even when they're exhausted inside. Closing thoughts on Part 2. The stories of Rachel, David, and Maya reveal the complex reality of high intelligence. It's not just about quick learning or problem solving. It's about the human experience of living slightly out of sync with others, quicker, sharper, but also under greater pressure. High intelligence creates opportunities, success in school, leadership in careers, innovation in business, but it also brings challenges, impatience, overcommitment, isolation, and the constant weight of expectation. At the end of the day, the lives of highly intelligent people remind us that being smart is not a guarantee of ease. It's simply a different way of moving through the world, one that requires balance, humility, and connection to truly flourish. When we talk about high intelligence, it's easy to picture success, gifted students, brilliant professionals, people who seem destined to achieve great things. And in many cases, that's true, but what often gets overlooked are the quieter realities, the struggles, the emotional weight, and the human side of living in this range. People with IQs between 130 and 145 don't just think differently, they often live under unique pressures. Balancing opportunity with challenge, brilliance with burden, the pressure of expectations. One of the heaviest challenges at this level is expectation. From childhood, highly intelligent individuals are often labeled gifted or brilliant. Parents, teachers, and peers expect great things. Every good grade is celebrated, but every misstep feels magnified. This creates a double bind. Success becomes the standard, and anything less feels like failure. For some, this pressure fuels achievement. For others, it leads to anxiety, perfectionism, or burnout. The label of smart can become both a badge of honor and a weight around the neck. As adults, the pressure doesn't vanish, it shifts. Employers expect them to be problem solvers. Colleagues assume they'll always have the answer. Friends and family look to them for guidance. The result is that highly intelligent people often feel they're never allowed to fail. Never allowed to just be ordinary. The isolation of being different. Another challenge is isolation. While high intelligence doesn't create the vast disconnect seen at genius levels, it does create a subtle sense of being out of sync. Conversations that feel engaging to others may feel slow or repetitive. Group projects may feel frustrating because others don't move as quickly. Social isolation can be particularly strong in childhood and adolescence. A student who reads at a college level in middle school may feel bored in class, struggling to relate to peers. Even as adults, highly intelligent people may crave relationships that challenge them intellectually, narrowing their social circle. This doesn't mean they can't form connections, they can, and often do, but the sense of being different can quietly shadow even the closest friendships. The challenge of patience. High intelligence often comes with quick thinking and rapid learning, but the world doesn't always move at that speed. Bureaucracies are slow, teams need time to process. Life requires repetition. For someone who sees solutions quickly, this can be maddening. They may grow impatient, dismissive, or restless, pushing others to keep up when they're not ready. In workplaces, this can create friction. In relationships, it can create distance. Patience becomes not just a virtue, but a survival skill. The highly intelligent must learn to slow down, to let others catch up, to value the process as much as the result. The risk of burnout. Because they learn quickly, highly intelligent people often take on more than they should. They say yes to extra projects, volunteer for leadership roles, or juggle multiple interests at once. For a while, this works. Their sharpness allows them to manage it all. But over time, the load becomes unsustainable. Burnout is a common risk at this level. The very qualities that create opportunity, speed, clarity, efficiency, also create the temptation to overcommit. Without balance, the sharp mind becomes a tired one. Opportunities that shine. Despite the challenges, high intelligence also opens doors. People in this range often find themselves excelling in education, careers, and creative pursuits. In school, they grasp material quickly, often leading to advanced placement or honors programs. In careers, they thrive in fields requiring analysis, strategy, or innovation, law, science, technology, the arts. In leadership, their ability to see patterns and anticipate problems often makes them natural leaders, capable of guiding teams with clarity. In creativity, many channel their sharpness into writing, art, or entrepreneurship, blending intelligence with imagination. These opportunities don't guarantee success, but they provide a strong foundation for achievement. The human meaning of high intelligence. At its core, living at level 5 is about balance. Intelligence is a tool. It can build or it can burden. The deeper meaning of this level lies not in raw ability, but in how it's used. When paired with humility, high intelligence becomes service, helping others see clearly, making complex things simple, lifting teams and communities. When paired with empathy, it becomes connection, using insight not to dominate, but to understand. When paired with resilience, it becomes growth, turning setbacks into opportunities for deeper learning. Without these qualities, intelligence can lead to arrogance, isolation, or burnout. With them, it becomes a force for good. Lessons for the rest of us. People at this level offer lessons that go beyond intellect. Brilliance needs balance. Thinking quickly doesn't mean living quickly. The art of slowing down is just as important as the ability to speed ahead. Pressure isn't destiny. Labels of gifted or smart don't define a person's worth. What matters is how they handle both success and struggle. Intelligence is shared best when it serves. The greatest impact of intelligence isn't in proving superiority, but in helping others thrive. Closing thoughts. Life at level 5 is rich, complex, and demanding. It's marked by quick learning, creative problem solving, and doors that open more easily. But it's also marked by pressure, isolation, and the constant need for balance. Highly intelligent people remind us that being smart is not the same as being fulfilled. Fulfillment comes not just from sharpness of mind, but from depth of character, patience, humility, empathy, and resilience. In the end, high intelligence is neither a guarantee of success nor a sentence of struggle. It is simply a powerful tool. How it shapes a life depends not only on the brain, but on the heart that guides it. Level 6. Gifted intelligence, IQ 145 plus. When you move past the high intelligence range and cross into IQ scores of 145 or higher, you're entering rare territory. Fewer than 2 out of every 100 people fall into this category. It's a level often described as gifted, not just because of how quickly these individuals learn, but because of the depth and originality of their thinking. Life at this level feels different, not just faster, but broader and deeper. People with gifted intelligence don't simply solve problems, they often reshape the problems themselves. They see systems from multiple angles, anticipate outcomes others don't notice, and create entirely new approaches to challenges. But along with these remarkable abilities come unique struggles. Gifted individuals often feel out of sync with the world around them. While their minds race ahead, social systems, institutions, and even friendships may feel painfully slow. To understand this level, we need to look closely at how their intelligence shapes learning, work, relationships, and life itself. Learning and cognitive style. At this level, learning borders on instinctive. Gifted individuals can read a textbook chapter once and retain not only the key points but also the structure of the arguments. They connect new knowledge to existing frameworks almost instantly, whereas people at average intelligence levels often need repetition and practice. The gifted mind thrives on novelty and complexity. They grow restless when faced with basic material, but light up when confronted with new, difficult, or abstract challenges. Perhaps the most striking trait is their ability to reframe problems. Instead of asking, "How do I solve this equation?" they might ask, "Is this the right equation to begin with?" Instead of asking, "What's the answer to this debate?" they might ask, "Are we even asking the right question?" This reframing is what makes them not just good problem solvers, but innovators. They don't simply play the game, they often rewrite the rules. Work and careers. In the professional world, gifted intelligence can be both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, these individuals often excel in advanced fields, theoretical science, mathematics, philosophy, cutting-edge technology, and high-level creative work. They're capable of understanding layers of complexity that leave others baffled. On the other hand, they may feel stifled in traditional workplaces. Routine tasks, rigid hierarchies, and bureaucratic processes feel suffocating. A gifted person working in a slow-moving corporate environment may feel like they're driving a race car in rush-hour traffic. The mismatch between their speed of thought and the pace of institutions often leads them toward entrepreneurship, research, or independent creative work, spaces where they can set their own rules. Relationships and social life. Gifted intelligence creates unique dynamics in relationships. On the positive side, these individuals are often deeply curious, insightful, and creative partners and friends. They can engage in wide-ranging conversations, dive into deep topics, and bring fresh perspectives that others find fascinating. But they may also feel misunderstood or isolated. Their intensity can be intimidating, and their tendency to question assumptions can make them seem contrarian. In friendships, they sometimes struggle to find people who match their intellectual energy. In romance, they may crave a partner who challenges them, which narrows the field further. Many gifted individuals describe a sense of being too much, too curious, too intense, too fast for the people around them. Without understanding peers, they can feel lonely, even when surrounded by others. Adaptability and growth. One of the hallmarks of gifted intelligence is creative adaptability. They don't just adjust to new situations, they often find ways to reinvent them. Faced with a problem at work, they don't simply learn a new procedure, they create a new system. Confronted with a personal challenge, they don't just cope, they reimagine the context. But adaptability can also be uneven. Gifted individuals often advance intellectually faster than they develop emotionally or socially. This, asynchronous development, means they may wrestle with intense emotions, perfectionism, or social awkwardness, even as their cognitive abilities soar. Growth at this level requires integrating not just the mind, but the heart, blind spots and weaknesses. Gifted intelligence is not without its pitfalls. Impatience with systems, slow or rigid structures can feel unbearable. Isolation, finding peers who think at the same level is difficult. Emotional imbalance, cognitive speed may outpace emotional development, creating inner conflict. Unrealistic expectations, both self-imposed and external, leading to stress or burnout. These weaknesses are not flaws in intelligence itself, but in the way gifted individuals experience the gap between their minds and the world around them. The human meaning of giftedness. At its core, gifted intelligence is about vision and originality. It's not just about learning quickly, it's about thinking differently. Gifted people bring perspectives that reshape how we see problems, systems, and even life itself. But giftedness is also about the challenge of integration. It's about learning how to balance brilliance with patience, creativity with discipline, and innovation with connection. Without these balances, giftedness can feel more like a burden than a gift. Level 6 intelligence represents a turning point in the spectrum. It's where intelligence stops being just about speed or efficiency and starts becoming about originality and transformation. Gifted individuals live in a world that often feels too small for their ideas, yet too complex for their emotions. Their challenge is not just to think brilliantly, but to live fully, to connect, to balance, and to use their vision not just for themselves, but for others. When they manage this, their gift becomes more than an advantage, it becomes a source of inspiration and change. Gifted intelligence often feels abstract when reduced to numbers. IQ scores above 145 place someone in a rare group. But what does that actually look like in daily life? To answer that, we need to move away from statistics and into stories. Real people reveal how this level of intelligence plays out in classrooms, careers, families, and communities. Their experiences bring to life both the power and the difficulty of living with a mind that runs far ahead of the pack. Case Study 1. Ethan the Young Prodigy. Ethan was reading novels by age 5. By the time he entered middle school, he was studying high school level math, not because someone forced him, but because his curiosity demanded it. His IQ, measured at 148, placed him squarely in the gifted range. Teachers admired Ethan's brilliance but struggled to keep him engaged. While the class spent weeks on fractions, Ethan grew bored and disruptive. He didn't need repetition, he needed challenge. His parents eventually moved him into a gifted program where he thrived, devouring advanced subjects and even helping design science projects for younger students. But Ethan's story isn't just about acceleration. Socially, he often felt out of place. His classmates were interested in video games and sports. He wanted to discuss black holes and philosophy. His sharpness made him impressive to adults but alienated from peers. For Ethan, the challenge wasn't learning, it was belonging. Case Study 2. Laura the Inventor. Laura, now in her 40s, has always been described as a step ahead. With an IQ of 150, she was quick to pick up complex ideas and had a knack for seeing connections others missed. After college, she went into engineering and eventually developed several patents for energy-efficient devices. Her success wasn't about grinding through endless trial and error. Instead, she often saw the solution before others even recognized the problem. Colleagues said she had a sixth sense for design. In truth, it was her gifted ability to spot patterns, anticipate weaknesses, and imagine alternatives. Yet Laura faced her own battles. In corporate environments, her pace of thought clashed with bureaucratic processes. Meetings felt excruciatingly slow. She often clashed with managers who resisted change, even when her ideas were sound. Eventually, she left to start her own company, where she could innovate without restraint. Laura's story shows both the promise and the frustration of gifted intelligence, the capacity for groundbreaking work, paired with the difficulty of fitting into systems built for average speed. Case Study 3. Daniel the Artist. Not all gifted individuals express their intelligence in traditional academic or technical ways. Daniel, a painter and musician with an IQ of 147, channels his brilliance into art. As a child, he saw the world differently. Colors felt more vivid, sounds more layered. Teachers noticed his unique way of describing things. Instead of saying the sky was blue, he would talk about the soft weight of light falling between clouds. In his 20s, Daniel struggled. Giftedness gave him sensitivity and depth, but it also left him emotionally raw. He felt disconnected from peers, misunderstood by critics, and burdened by a flood of ideas he couldn't always express. He battled depression, wondering if his intelligence was more curse than gift. Eventually, Daniel found stability by surrounding himself with mentors and fellow artists who respected his intensity. His work now hangs in galleries, celebrated for its originality. His journey highlights a truth about giftedness. Brilliance and vulnerability often walk hand in hand. The family perspective. Families of gifted individuals often live in paradox. On one hand, they're proud and amazed at their child's abilities. On the other, they feel overwhelmed by the responsibility of nurturing such potential. Parents describe exhaustion from trying to keep up with endless questions. Why is the sky blue? Turns into what existed before the Big Bang, long before the child is ready to sleep. Siblings sometimes feel overshadowed, comparing themselves to the genius in the family. Gifted children can also be emotionally intense, perfectionistic, anxious, or sensitive. Families must walk a fine line between encouraging growth and protecting balance. Without support, giftedness can spiral into isolation or burnout. With support, it can blossom into remarkable achievement. The workplace perspective. In professional environments, gifted adults often become catalysts for change. They're the ones who ask, "Why do we do it this way?" Not to be difficult, but because they see better possibilities. They may create innovative solutions, streamline processes, or envision entirely new products. But they can also clash with authority. Managers who value conformity may find them disruptive. Peers may feel intimidated or resentful. Gifted employees often feel torn. Should they hold back to fit in, or push forward and risk rejection? Some workplaces recognize their value and provide space for autonomy. Others push them out, inadvertently wasting potential. This tension explains why many gifted individuals gravitate toward research, entrepreneurship, or creative industries where independence is valued. The social dimension. Socially, gifted individuals face a strange mix of admiration and isolation. Friends may appreciate their insights but struggle with their intensity. Jokes that make others laugh may seem shallow. Conversations that feel engaging to most may feel repetitive. At the same time, gifted people often long for connection. They don't want to stand apart, they want to belong. The challenge is finding peers who share their curiosity and depth. When they do, the friendships can be profound, filled with late-night conversations about philosophy, science, or art. When they don't, loneliness becomes a real risk. Invisible struggles. Perhaps the most overlooked part of giftedness is the emotional burden. Outsiders often assume that life must be easy for someone so smart. But intelligence doesn't shield people from pain, it often magnifies it. Gifted individuals are acutely aware of flaws in systems, injustices in society, and even contradictions in their own lives. They may struggle with perfectionism, never feeling satisfied with their work. They may wrestle with anxiety, constantly aware of how fragile success can be. They may feel guilty for not doing more, haunted by the sense that their abilities create an obligation to change the world. The stories of Ethan, Laura, and Daniel show that gifted intelligence is not a single path. It can lead to academic brilliance, technological innovation, or artistic genius. It can also lead to frustration, burnout, and loneliness. Gifted individuals live in a world that often feels mismatched to their pace and depth. They may shine in classrooms, careers, and communities, but they may also struggle with belonging, balance, and peace of mind. What these stories remind us is that giftedness is not just about sharp thinking, it's about the whole person. Supporting gifted individuals means nurturing not just their intellect, but also their emotions, relationships, and sense of meaning. Gifted intelligence sits at a strange intersection of brilliance and burden. With IQ scores above 145, individuals in this range stand apart, capable of processing information at remarkable speed, grasping abstract concepts deeply, and reframing problems in ways others rarely imagine. But the same qualities that allow them to soar can also leave them feeling weighed down. To understand life at this level, we have to look at the hidden struggles, the unique opportunities, and the broader meaning of being gifted. The challenges of giftedness. 1. Feeling out of sync. One of the most common struggles is the constant feeling of being out of step with the world. A gifted child may be fascinated by quantum mechanics while classmates are still learning multiplication tables. An adult may see solutions to workplace problems long before colleagues even recognize the issue. This mismatch creates frustration and, at times, isolation. 2. The weight of expectations. Gifted individuals often carry enormous expectations, from family, from society, and from themselves. You're so smart. You'll change the world, they're told. The pressure can be crushing. When achievements don't measure up to the hype, they may feel like failures, even when they're succeeding by ordinary standards. 3. Perfectionism and burnout. Because their minds are so sharp, many gifted people set impossibly high standards. They see not just the flaws in their own work but the flaws in entire systems, which can leave them dissatisfied and restless. Over time, this can lead to burnout, where their brilliance dims under the weight of exhaustion. 4. Emotional intensity. Gifted intelligence doesn't always come with equal emotional maturity. In fact, many experience emotions more intensely: joy, fear, anger, sadness. They may struggle with anxiety, depression, or existential questions at a young age. This asynchronous development can make them feel both advanced and vulnerable at the same time. The opportunities of giftedness. Despite the struggles, gifted intelligence opens extraordinary doors. 1. Innovation and creativity. Gifted individuals often excel at seeing connections others miss. This makes them natural innovators, scientists who propose new theories, entrepreneurs who disrupt industries, artists who push creative boundaries. 2. Rapid learning. Their ability to learn quickly means they can pivot across fields. A gifted person may move from mathematics to philosophy to music, mastering enough in each area to contribute meaningfully. This versatility allows them to thrive in a world where change is constant. 3. Leadership and influence. Because they anticipate problems and see big picture patterns, gifted people often step into leadership roles. They may not always seek power, but their clarity of thought positions them as visionaries who guide teams, communities, or even movements. 4. Deep fulfillment in pursuits. When gifted individuals find outlets that challenge them, whether in research, art, or advocacy, they can experience profound fulfillment. Their intensity, channeled into purpose, becomes a force for good. Bridging the gap. One of the central challenges for gifted individuals is bridging the gap between their abilities and the world's pace. Systems are built for the average, not the exceptional. Schools move slowly, workplaces bog down in bureaucracy, and social groups often prioritize comfort over depth. Gifted people thrive when they learn to balance their speed with patience. Instead of racing ahead alone, They discover meaning in bringing others along. Instead of dismissing average perspectives, they find ways to translate complex ideas into accessible insights. This bridging role is not easy, but when mastered, it turns isolation into connection. The human meaning of giftedness. At its heart, gifted intelligence raises deeper questions about what it means to live well. Being smart is not the same as being wise. Having ability is not the same as finding peace. The human meaning of giftedness lies not in raw IQ, but in how that intelligence is used. If used selfishly, it can lead to arrogance, isolation, or detachment from others. If used with humility and empathy, it can uplift communities, inspire change, and create legacies that last. Gifted individuals often find themselves wrestling with existential questions earlier than most. What is my purpose? How do I use my talents responsibly? Am I doing enough with what I've been given? These questions can be heavy, but they also point toward a path where giftedness becomes more than a personal advantage. It becomes a responsibility to the world. Lessons for the rest of us. Gifted individuals, whether or not they realize it, teach the broader society important lessons. Difference isn't deficiency. Feeling out of sync doesn't mean something is wrong. It means a different rhythm is at play. Brilliance needs balance. Intelligence without patience, humility, and emotional grounding can falter. Connection is essential. Even the brightest minds need belonging. Isolation erodes potential. Community amplifies it. Closing thoughts. Living with gifted intelligence is not just about thinking faster or deeper. It's about carrying both the brilliance and the burden of being different. It's about navigating a world that doesn't always understand, while striving to use extraordinary ability in ways that matter. At its best, giftedness is transformative, creating breakthroughs in science, art, business, and human thought. At its worst, it can feel like a lonely weight, isolating the individual from the world they long to connect with. The challenge, then, is integration. Learning to pair sharpness of mind with strength of character. When gifted individuals manage this balance, they remind us all that intelligence is not just about what we can do, but about who we become in the process. Level 7. Genius intelligence, IQ 160 plus. When most of us hear the word genius, we picture a stereotype. Albert Einstein scribbling equations on a chalkboard, Mozart composing symphonies at age 5, or a modern tech founder who seems to bend the future to their will. But genius isn't just about famous names in history books. It's a way of thinking and experiencing the world that sits far outside the norm. At IQ levels above 160, individuals operate in rarefied territory. They're not just quick learners or strong problem solvers. Their minds reshape the very questions being asked. While average intelligence solves problems and high intelligence improves systems, genius often reinvents the systems themselves. Life at this level isn't just faster, it's fundamentally different. Genius-level thinkers don't just process information at a higher speed, they perceive reality through a different lens. And while this brings breathtaking creativity, it also creates distance from the ordinary rhythms of daily life. How genius minds learn. Learning for a genius doesn't follow the same rules as it does for most people. Imagine reading a textbook chapter once and remembering not only the content, but also seeing connections across 3 other disciplines at the same time. That's what giftedness at the 145 level might look like, but genius goes further. A genius-level child might not just memorize multiplication tables early, they might ask, why does our number system use base 10? What if it were base 12? They don't stop at the lesson being taught. They push beyond it, questioning the structure of knowledge itself. This tendency to deconstruct and rebuild isn't limited to academics. In music, a genius might not only master an instrument quickly but begin composing entirely new structures of sound. In literature, they might reinvent narrative styles instead of just following them. In science, they often ask the wrong questions, the ones others dismiss, only to discover they were the right questions all along. pattern breakers and system makers. One hallmark of genius-level intelligence is the ability to see patterns no one else sees. Where most people recognize connections within a single domain, geniuses often see across domains. They notice that the flow of rivers mimics neural pathways, or that economic cycles resemble musical rhythms. But genius doesn't stop at recognizing patterns. It pushes towards system building. They don't just solve problems inside the rules, they build new frameworks of understanding. Einstein didn't just solve physics equations, he redefined space and time. Steve Jobs didn't just build computers, he reshaped how people interact with technology. This ability to break and remake systems is exhilarating, but it's also disorienting for both the genius and the people around them. Their ideas may sound too radical, too premature, or simply too strange until years later, when the world finally catches up. Work and careers. In the workplace, genius-level intelligence can be both electrifying and disruptive. These individuals often thrive in environments where innovation is prized, research labs, creative industries, startups. They're the visionaries who launch new movements, pioneer breakthroughs, and generate disruptive ideas. But they also clash with traditional systems. Bureaucracy feels suffocating. Routine feels unbearable. A job that values conformity over originality may crush their spirit. It's not unusual for genius-level minds to resist conventional career paths, choosing instead to carve their own, sometimes succeeding spectacularly, sometimes failing just as spectacularly. Geniuses may also experience uneven careers. They might burn bright with one breakthrough, then struggle to adapt their gifts to everyday demands. The brilliance that allows them to invent new worlds doesn't always help them pay the bills. Relationships and social life. Here's where the paradox of genius really shows. On one hand, geniuses can be magnetic. Their ideas inspire, their creativity dazzles, and their conversations can leave people in awe. On the other hand, they can feel profoundly isolated. Why? Because genius intelligence often operates at a level where peers are rare. Their thoughts move quickly, their questions run deep, and their passions may seem strange to others. Friendships can feel lopsided. They may crave connection but struggle to find people who truly understand them. Romantic relationships are similarly complex. A genius partner may be exhilarating, constantly introducing new ideas and adventures. But they can also be restless, distracted, or consumed by their work. Balancing intimacy with intensity becomes one of their greatest challenges. Adaptability and growth. Genius intelligence brings incredible adaptability, but not always in obvious ways. A genius doesn't just adapt to change, they often anticipate it, or even create it. They're the ones who look at a shifting world and say, "Here's where it's headed next," long before anyone else sees it. But adaptability can also be uneven. While their minds leap across domains, their emotions or practical skills may lag behind. A genius scientist may revolutionize their field but struggle to manage their personal finances. A genius artist may reinvent an entire genre but wrestle with depression or self-doubt. Growth at this level isn't about learning more facts. It's about learning how to balance brilliance with the practicalities of living. Blind spots and struggles. Genius-level intelligence comes with its own set of pitfalls. Isolation. Few peers, leading to loneliness. Rejection. Radical ideas may be dismissed before their time. Perfectionism. Seeing so many possibilities makes it hard to finish projects. Emotional turmoil. Intensity of thought often pairs with intensity of feeling. Imbalance. Extraordinary intellectual growth can outpace social or emotional growth. These struggles remind us that genius is not the same as ease. In fact, it can be a more difficult path than average intelligence. The human meaning of genius. So what does it mean to live at level 7? It means carrying both extraordinary potential and extraordinary weight. Geniuses often feel compelled to push boundaries, to ask unanswerable questions, to create new realities, and yet, they also wrestle with rejection, loneliness, and pressure. The deeper meaning of genius isn't found in IQ scores or achievements. It's found in how these individuals bridge the gap between vision and humanity. When genius is paired with empathy, humility, and resilience, it doesn't just create new knowledge, it inspires whole generations. Genius intelligence is rare, powerful, and complicated. It creates minds that don't just learn, they transform. But it also creates lives marked by isolation, pressure, and the struggle to connect. At its best, genius is a force of change, moving humanity forward in leaps instead of steps. At its worst, it can become a lonely burden, leaving the individual trapped between their vision and the world's slower pace. To be a genius is to live at the edge of possibility, and to spend a lifetime learning how to bring that edge back to the rest of us. When people hear the word genius, they often think of once-in-a-century figures, Einstein, Mozart, Marie Curie, and yes, many historic geniuses fall into this category. But not every genius becomes a household name. Some work quietly in labs, compose in small studios, or live lives that are extraordinary in private ways. To understand genius intelligence, it helps to look beyond the myth and into real stories. Stories that show both the brilliance and the struggles of minds that operate far above the norm. Case Study 1. Clara the mathematician. Clara grew up in a small town but was anything but ordinary. By age 10, she was solving college-level math problems for fun. Teachers were amazed. Classmates were confused. Clara wasn't just ahead in math. She was thinking about numbers in ways that baffled adults. She saw patterns where others saw chaos, beauty where others saw only complexity. Her IQ, later measured at 163, confirmed what everyone already knew. Her mind worked differently. She skipped multiple grades and entered college at 15. By her 20s, Clara was publishing research papers in advanced mathematics. But her path wasn't easy. Socially, Clara struggled. While her peers were dating or going to parties, she was immersed in abstract equations. Conversations often felt shallow to her, and she battled loneliness. Even in academic circles, her ideas were sometimes dismissed as too far out, until years later, when others realized she had been right all along. Clara's story shows both the promise and the pain of genius. Her brilliance opened doors, but it also left her isolated in ways few could see. Case Study 2. Marcus the inventor. Marcus never fit neatly into school. He was restless, easily bored, and constantly tinkering with machines. Teachers sometimes mistook him for lazy or distracted, but his IQ of 167 told a different story. Marcus didn't struggle because he couldn't learn. He struggled because the pace was too slow. As an adult, he channeled his genius into engineering. He designed prototypes for renewable energy devices that challenged conventional designs. Some of his inventions failed spectacularly, but others worked brilliantly. Investors were skeptical at first. Marcus's ideas seemed too unconventional, but eventually, one of his designs caught on, changing how small communities generated electricity. What makes Marcus's story powerful isn't just his technical talent, but his resilience. Genius often means being misunderstood, and Marcus faced rejection after rejection. His breakthrough came not from being right the first time, but from persisting until the world was ready to hear him. Case Study 3. Aisha the writer. Aisha's genius took a different form. With an IQ above 160, she had a gift for language. As a child, she read voraciously, finishing entire novels in a single weekend. By her teens, she was writing essays that startled her teachers with their depth. She didn't just tell stories, she dismantled assumptions, reframed ideas, and rebuilt them in ways that felt both new and true. As an adult, Aisha became a novelist. Her books blended philosophy, psychology, and narrative in ways that challenged readers to think differently. Critics sometimes struggled to categorize her work. Was it literature? Was it social commentary? Or was it philosophy disguised as fiction? But her genius also carried weight. Aisha wrestled with perfectionism. often revising her work dozens of times. She felt pressure to live up to her reputation as the genius writer, which sometimes paralyzed her creativity. Her story shows how genius can produce not only brilliance but also crushing self-expectation. The family perspective. Families of genius-level individuals often describe raising them as both exhilarating and exhausting. On one hand, their curiosity is endless. A child might spend hours building elaborate systems out of household objects, or ask questions about the universe no one in the family can answer. On the other hand, the intensity can be overwhelming. Siblings may feel overshadowed, wondering why they can't measure up. Parents may feel ill-equipped to nurture such potential, especially if resources for gifted education are limited. Families also face the emotional intensity that often accompanies genius. Children at this level may be hypersensitive, prone to anxiety, or frustrated by their inability to find peers who understand them. Parents learn quickly that raising a genius is not just about providing books and lessons. It's about teaching balance, patience, and resilience. The workplace perspective. In professional life, genius-level individuals often stand out. They may be the employee who proposes an entirely new system instead of tweaking the old one, or the researcher whose experiments redefine a field. Their contributions can be game-changing. But workplaces can also be hostile to genius. Radical ideas are often dismissed, not because they're wrong, but because they're too different from established norms. Colleagues may feel threatened by their speed or creativity. Managers may see them as disruptive rather than visionary. This is why many geniuses leave traditional jobs to strike out on their own, as entrepreneurs, researchers, or independent creators. Freedom allows their ideas to flourish, while rigid systems can stifle them. The social dimension. Socially, genius intelligence often creates paradoxes. On one hand, geniuses can be magnetic. People are drawn to their ideas, their creativity, their vision. On the other hand, geniuses often feel profoundly alone. Friends may admire them but not fully understand them. Conversations may feel unbalanced, as though they're always holding back to avoid overwhelming others. Many geniuses report that they crave deep, challenging dialogue but rarely find it outside specialized circles. This isolation can lead to loneliness, or it can motivate them to build communities of like-minded individuals. History is full of examples: salons, think tanks, artistic movements, scientific societies, spaces where genius minds came together to spark one another's creativity. Invisible struggles. What most people don't see are the invisible struggles behind the genius label. Rejection. Their ideas are often dismissed until years later. Self-doubt. Despite their brilliance, they may constantly question if they're doing enough. Mental health. Depression, anxiety, and existential dread are common companions. Balance. Everyday tasks, managing schedules, relationships, or finances may feel harder than solving abstract problems. These struggles don't erase their genius, but they remind us that brilliance doesn't make life easy. The stories of Clara, Marcus, and Aisha reveal the human side of genius. It's not just about breakthroughs or brilliance, it's about the lived experience of being different. Genius opens extraordinary possibilities, but it also creates extraordinary challenges. What ties these stories together is a sense of tension between vision and reality, brilliance and belonging, creativity and constraint. Genius isn't just a gift, it's a complicated way of living that requires resilience, patience, and connection. To live at genius level is to carry a mind that rarely rests. With IQ scores above 160, these individuals perceive, process, and create at a pace and depth that feels extraordinary compared to the norm. But genius is not just about brilliance, it's also about burden. For every breakthrough, there's often a season of struggle. For every extraordinary insight, there's often a sense of being out of sync with the world. To understand this level fully, we need to explore not only the dazzling opportunities but also the very real challenges and the larger meaning behind them. The challenges of genius. 1. Rejection and misunderstanding. One of the biggest struggles for geniuses is that their ideas often arrive before the world is ready. History is full of examples. Nikola Tesla proposing wireless energy long before technology could support it. Or Gregor Mendel discovering the principles of genetics decades before scientists recognized his work. Genius minds often see the future, but in the present, they're dismissed as impractical or eccentric. 2. Isolation and loneliness. With so few peers operating at the same level, geniuses often feel deeply alone. Everyday conversations may feel unfulfilling, and finding friends or partners who get it can be rare. Even when surrounded by people, they may feel like outsiders, watching life unfold at a different speed. 3. Perfectionism and paralysis. Genius minds see possibilities in overwhelming numbers. A project is never just one path forward, it's dozens. This vision is a gift, but it can also paralyze. Perfectionism creeps in. It's not ready yet, and projects stall under the weight of endless revision. 4. Emotional turmoil. Genius intelligence often pairs with intensity of emotion. The same depth that fuels insight can also fuel anxiety, depression, or existential dread. A genius may spend hours pondering not just how to solve problems but whether life itself has meaning. This sensitivity can make them brilliant creators, but also vulnerable human beings. The opportunities of genius. Despite the struggles, genius intelligence brings extraordinary opportunities for both the individual and society. 1. Breakthrough innovation. Geniuses often reshape entire fields. They don't just contribute, they transform. Einstein's theories redefined physics. James Joyce redefined literature. Genius pushes humanity forward in leaps instead of steps. 2. Cross-disciplinary insights. While most people excel in one area, many geniuses leap across fields. They draw connections between art and science, philosophy and technology, economics and biology. This cross-pollination often leads to revolutionary insights that wouldn't emerge within a single discipline. 3. Leadership of ideas. Even if not always in formal positions of authority, geniuses often lead through vision. Their ideas influence generations, shaping culture, science, technology, and politics. People may resist at first, but once the world catches up, their influence becomes undeniable. 4. Legacy and inspiration. Genius doesn't just create change, it inspires it. Seeing someone operate at this level pushes others to think bigger, try harder, and stretch beyond the ordinary. A single genius can ignite entire movements of thought and creativity. The balancing act. The heart of the genius experience is balance. How do you live with a mind that sees too much, too fast, too deeply? Balancing vision with patience. Ideas may be decades ahead of their time. Learning to wait, and to persist through rejection, is essential. Balancing brilliance with humanity. Genius can overshadow relationships. The challenge is to stay grounded, to nurture friendships, family, and love. Balancing creation with rest. The drive to keep producing can lead to exhaustion. Learning when to stop, breathe, and simply be is often the hardest lesson. Without balance, genius risks burnout or alienation. With it, genius becomes a source not just of brilliance but of wisdom. The human meaning of genius. What does it really mean to live as a genius? It means carrying the tension of two truths. You see what others don't. Genius means noticing patterns, asking questions, and envisioning futures invisible to most. You live in a world that may not understand. The very insights that make a genius remarkable can also make them feel alone, rejected, or misunderstood. The human meaning of genius lies in navigating this tension, not retreating into isolation, not burning out under pressure, but finding ways to connect vision with humanity. When geniuses pair their brilliance with empathy, they don't just invent, they inspire. They don't just solve, they transform. They don't just live for themselves. They leave legacies that ripple across generations. Lessons for everyone. Even if most of us will never experience life at IQ 160 or above, Genius offers lessons for all of us. Question assumptions. Genius reminds us that the biggest breakthroughs come not from answering questions, but from daring to ask different ones. Value difference. What seems eccentric today may be visionary tomorrow. Embracing difference creates space for progress. Pair intelligence with empathy. Brilliance alone can isolate. Brilliance with compassion can change the world. Closing thoughts. Life at level 7 is extraordinary and complicated. It's marked by breakthroughs that redefine fields, but also by rejection that wounds deeply. It's filled with creativity that dazzles, but also with loneliness that lingers. Genius intelligence is not just about IQ. It's about the human journey of carrying extraordinary ability in an ordinary world. At its best, genius is humanity's torchbearer, lighting the way into futures we can't yet see. At its worst, it's a burden that isolates the very people who could change everything. The difference lies in how these individuals, and the world around them, choose to bridge the gap. Genius is not simply about what the mind can achieve. It's about what the heart chooses to do with that gift. Level 8. Polymathic intelligence. When you think of a polymath, names like Leonardo da Vinci often come to mind, a painter, scientist, engineer, and visionary all rolled into one. But polymathic intelligence isn't just about dabbling in many subjects. It's about excelling across them, then weaving the knowledge together into insights that no single discipline could create on its own. At this level, intelligence moves beyond speed or even depth in one area. It becomes breadth and integration. A polymath doesn't simply master multiple fields independently. They see the hidden threads that connect them. Where most people build a career in one narrow specialty, the polymath builds bridges across specialties, pulling from art, science, philosophy, technology, and more. This kind of intelligence is rare, not because people can't learn multiple things, but because it requires an unusual combination: high capacity for learning, insatiable curiosity, and the ability to tolerate complexity. Polymaths thrive where others might feel overwhelmed. How polymaths learn. Learning for polymaths isn't linear. They don't move neatly from A to B to C. Instead, they bounce. Biology one day, literature the next, economics the day after. To outsiders, it looks scattered. To the polymath, it's a living web of connections. The key isn't just their ability to absorb knowledge quickly, though they often do. It's their drive to see how things fit together. A polymath studying medicine might notice parallels in architecture, the structure of a building mirroring the structure of the human body. Another might connect musical rhythm to mathematical cycles. This cross-pollination creates fresh insights, where specialists may get trapped in silos. Polymaths see the whole forest, and how the trees relate to one another. Work and careers. In careers, polymaths rarely fit into neat boxes. They may start in one profession, leap to another, then combine the two into something entirely new. A software engineer might become a novelist, weaving technology into storytelling. A historian might pivot into business, applying lessons from the past to modern strategy. Their strength lies in integration. Because they've seen multiple fields up close, they're uniquely positioned to innovate. Many breakthroughs in history have come not from specialists but from polymaths, people who brought fresh eyes from one field into another. But careers can also be tricky. The modern world prizes specialization. Job postings demand experts in narrow niches. Polymaths often feel restless in such environments, either switching careers frequently or forging unconventional paths like entrepreneurship, research, or independent creative work. Relationships and social life. Socially, polymaths are often fascinating companions. They can talk about almost anything: art, politics, science, history, moving fluidly between subjects. Friends may describe them as encyclopedic or endlessly curious. But polymathic minds can also be intimidating. Their breadth may make others feel inadequate or overwhelmed. They may also struggle with focus in conversations, jumping from topic to topic in ways that leave listeners dizzy. In relationships, Polymaths often seek partners who appreciate their curiosity and can tolerate, or even share, their constant exploration. For the wrong partner, their restless energy can feel like distraction. For the right one, it feels like adventure, adaptability and growth. One of the greatest strengths of polymaths is adaptability. Because they've studied so many fields, they can pivot quickly when life changes. A shift in technology? They've seen it coming from another discipline. A new challenge at work? They borrow lessons from philosophy, art, or science to solve it. But adaptability also has a shadow side: lack of focus. Polymaths sometimes struggle to go deep enough in one field to be recognized as experts. They may feel pulled in too many directions, leaving projects half-finished. Growth, for them, often means learning when to dig deep and when to move on. Blind spots and struggles. Despite their gifts, polymaths face unique challenges. The jack-of-all-trades trap. They risk being seen as generalists who know a little about everything but not enough about anything. Restlessness. Their curiosity can pull them in too many directions, leading to burnout or scattered focus. Isolation. Specialists may dismiss them as unfocused, leaving polymaths feeling undervalued. Time. Mastery across fields requires time, and polymaths constantly wrestle with the reality that no lifetime is long enough to explore it all. The human meaning of polymathic intelligence. At its core, polymathic intelligence is about seeing wholeness in a fractured world. Modern society pushes us toward silos. Lawyers here, doctors there, artists in another corner. Polymaths resist that fragmentation. They remind us that knowledge is interconnected, that music, science, philosophy, and engineering are not separate universes but different expressions of the same human drive to understand. Their meaning lies not just in what they achieve, but in what they symbolize: the possibility of a more integrated way of thinking. One that refuses to accept the walls we build between disciplines. Level 8 intelligence is rare not because it requires more brainpower than genius, but because it requires a different kind of courage, the courage to stray from specialization, to embrace breadth in a world that values depth, and to integrate instead of divide. Polymaths live with constant tension, pulled between fields, restless for novelty, hungry to connect the dots. But when they succeed, they don't just create answers within a system. They create entirely new ways of understanding reality. In a fragmented world, their gift is integration. When we think about polymaths, it's tempting to focus only on the legends. Da Vinci sketching flying machines centuries before airplanes. Benjamin Franklin shifting from statesman to inventor. Maya Angelou weaving together literature, activism, and music. But polymathic intelligence isn't just about famous names from history, it exists today. In people who refuse to stay in one lane. Their stories show what it feels like to live with minds that thrive on crossing boundaries. Case Study 1. Adrian the scientist-artist. Adrian grew up with two great loves, biology and painting. Teachers often pushed him to choose science or art, lab or studio, but he couldn't let either go. His IQ was never formally measured, but his achievements said enough. By his mid-20s, Adrian had earned a PhD in molecular biology while also building a reputation as a professional painter. Instead of keeping the two worlds separate, he combined them. His lab notebooks were filled with detailed illustrations that doubled as works of art. His gallery exhibits used visual metaphors to explain complex scientific ideas to the public. Some colleagues saw his dual focus as a distraction, but others recognized it as brilliance. Adrian's art helped communicate science in ways textbooks never could. His story shows a core trait of polymathic intelligence. Integration turns into innovation. Case Study 2. Sophia the entrepreneur scholar. Sophia always had restless curiosity. She studied philosophy in college, but after graduation she shifted into business, founding a startup that used data analytics to help nonprofits manage resources. Along the way, she wrote essays blending ethics, economics, and technology, which gained attention in academic circles. For Sophia, the magic wasn't in mastering one domain. It was in seeing how each field informed the other. Her background in philosophy gave her ethical frameworks for business. Her experience in business gave her real-world grounding for her writing. Instead of seeing these as separate tracks, she wove them together into a coherent whole. Her polymathic approach made her stand out. While other entrepreneurs focused only on profits, she built models that prioritized sustainability and fairness. Her success showed how breadth can create depth when guided by vision. Case Study 3. Malik the Educator Performer. Malik's career defies easy labels. He's an educator, a playwright, a musician, and a community organizer. His IQ tests placed him above the gifted threshold. But numbers alone don't explain his drive. What matters is how he blends his talents. In the classroom, Malik uses music and performance to teach history. Students don't just memorize facts. They act out plays that dramatize turning points in history. Or rap about political revolutions. Outside of school, he organizes local theater productions that double as civic education, teaching communities about voting rights and social change. Some people say Malik is doing too much. But for him, the multiple roles aren't a burden, they're fuel. Each domain feeds the others, creating a cycle of creativity that a single lane could never sustain. Malik shows how polymathic intelligence often looks less like juggling and more like weaving. The family perspective. Families of polymaths often describe them as endlessly curious. A child may leap from building Lego cities to writing short stories to conducting kitchen experiments, all in the same afternoon. Parents sometimes struggle to keep up, wondering if they should encourage focus or nurture the breadth. The answer usually lies in balance. Families that support polymathic kids with resources, books, classes, mentors, help them grow. But families that pressure them to pick one thing often stifle their gift. Many polymaths report that their earliest struggle wasn't lack of ability but lack of permission to explore widely. Siblings of polymaths can feel both inspired and overshadowed. It's not easy living next to someone who seems to excel in 3 different fields while you're just trying to pass algebra. The healthiest families find ways to celebrate different strengths instead of measuring everyone against the polymath. The workplace perspective. Modern workplaces are often unfriendly to polymaths. Job descriptions demand specialization: accountant, software engineer, nurse. Someone whose resume spans philosophy, coding, and theater can look unfocused. Employers may dismiss polymaths as scatterbrained, not recognizing that breadth is their strength. But when polymaths find the right environment, startups, research institutes, creative industries, they shine. Their ability to pull solutions from multiple fields makes them innovators. A team stuck in narrow thinking may find that the polymath sees an answer in an entirely different domain. One tech company executive described a polymath employee this way: "He wasn't our best coder, or our best designer, or our best strategist, but he was the one who could see how all 3 fit together. Without him, we'd have been blind." The social dimension. Socially, polymaths can be both exciting and overwhelming. They bring stories, insights, and curiosities from many different worlds. Dinner conversations can range from neuroscience to poetry to politics in a single sitting. Friends often admire this range but may struggle to keep up. Romantic relationships with polymaths can feel like adventures. Partners may find themselves exposed to new ideas, new cultures, and new experiences constantly. But they may also feel exhausted if the polymath's restlessness never slows down. Balance again becomes the key. Polymaths often find their deepest friendships in communities of other curious, wide-ranging people. Makerspaces, salons, online forums, or interdisciplinary conferences provide the kind of intellectual playgrounds where they feel most at home. Invisible struggles. Behind the fascinating lives of polymaths are struggles that aren't always visible. Identity crisis. Am I a scientist? An artist? A businessperson? Polymaths often wrestle with defining themselves. Imposter syndrome. In specialized fields, They may feel like outsiders, never expert enough. Time pressure. There are only so many hours in a day. And breadth demands more than any lifetime can hold. Loneliness. Few people truly understand the drive to span multiple worlds. These struggles don't erase the value of polymathic intelligence, but they add texture to it. Polymaths don't just live wide, they live with constant tension. Closing thoughts. The stories of Adrian, Sophia, and Malik show the heart of polymathic intelligence. It's not just about collecting skills, it's about weaving them into something new. It's about refusing to accept the silos that society imposes and daring to live as a whole person. Polymaths remind us that innovation doesn't just happen within a field, it happens at the intersections. Their lives may look messy from the outside, but up close, they reveal a tapestry of connections that enriches not only themselves but the communities they touch. Living as a polymath is exhilarating but complicated. To master multiple fields and weave them together into unified insights sounds like a dream. And in many ways, it is. Polymaths bring the kind of creative leaps that change how we think, work, and live. But that gift also comes with challenges, pressures of time, questions of identity, and a world that doesn't always know what to do with minds that refuse to fit into neat boxes. To really understand polymathic intelligence, we need to explore not only the opportunities it creates but also the struggles it imposes and the larger meaning it carries for both the individual and society. The challenges of polymathic intelligence. 1. The specialist's world. Modern society is built around specialization. Universities push students into majors. Workplaces reward narrow expertise. And entire economies thrive on people becoming the best at one thing. For polymaths, this feels suffocating. They don't want to choose just one lane, they want to explore many. But systems often punish this breadth, labeling it as indecision or lack of focus. 2. Time and mortality. Polymaths are acutely aware that no lifetime is long enough to master all the fields they love. This creates a constant sense of urgency. They may dive deeply into one subject, only to feel guilty for neglecting another. The result is a quiet anxiety. I'll never have enough time to do it all. 3. Imposter syndrome. Because polymaths split their attention across fields, they sometimes feel they're never expert enough. Surrounded by specialists, they may doubt their legitimacy, even though their strength lies in connecting dots others can't even see. 4. Isolation. Polymathic minds are rare, and rarity can be lonely. Conversations with peers can feel lopsided. Others go deep on one thing, while the polymath skims across 10. Without a community of other wide-ranging thinkers, polymaths may feel misunderstood or undervalued. The opportunities of polymathic intelligence. 1. Innovation at the intersections. Polymaths thrive where disciplines overlap. They bring metaphors from music into physics, lessons from history into business, or insights from biology into architecture. Many of humanity's breakthroughs come not from specialists alone but from polymaths who dared to cross boundaries. 2. Adaptability in change. Because polymaths understand multiple systems, they can pivot quickly when life shifts. A world facing rapid technological, cultural, and ecological change needs exactly this kind of flexibility. 3. Holistic perspective. Where specialists may get trapped in details, polymaths see the bigger picture. They remind us that no field exists in isolation. Medicine isn't just biology, it's psychology, sociology, economics, and ethics all woven together. Polymaths help us see the whole where others see only parts. 4. Legacy of integration. Perhaps the greatest opportunity for polymaths is legacy. By refusing to fragment knowledge, they leave behind frameworks that unify disciplines. Da Vinci's notebooks, Franklin's inventions, Angelou's cross-disciplinary artistry, all remind us that humanity's richest contributions often come from those who lived many lives at once. The balancing act. Polymathic intelligence is powerful, but it demands balance. Balancing breadth with depth. Too much breadth risks shallowness, Too much depth risks tunnel vision. Polymaths must learn when to skim and when to dig. Balancing passion with rest. Curiosity is endless, but energy is not. Without rest, polymaths burn out. Balancing self with society. The world may not always value breadth. Polymaths must decide whether to conform, resist, or carve out their own paths. When this balance is struck, polymaths don't just enrich their own lives, they enrich the world around them. The human meaning of polymathic intelligence. At its core, polymathic intelligence speaks to something deeply human, the desire to be whole. Modern life often fractures us: work here, art there, philosophy somewhere else. Polymaths resist this fragmentation. They remind us that knowledge is not separate islands but a single landscape. The human meaning of polymathic intelligence is integration. It's about honoring the full range of curiosity, refusing to accept artificial boundaries, and creating lives that are wide as well as deep. In a time when the world's challenges are complex and interconnected, polymaths symbolize the mindset we desperately need, one that can hold many truths at once. Lessons for the rest of us. Even if most people will never live fully as polymaths, their lives carry lessons for all of us. Don't fear breadth. Curiosity across fields doesn't dilute intelligence, it strengthens it. Look for connections. Innovation often comes from asking, how does this relate to that? Resist false boundaries. Art, science, philosophy, and technology are not separate. They're conversations across time. Value wholeness. A rich life is not just about being the best at one thing. It's about weaving multiple strands into meaning. Closing thoughts. Polymathic intelligence is rare, but it's also deeply needed. In a world that prizes specialization, polymaths remind us of the beauty and necessity of integration. They carry the challenge of time, identity, and recognition, but also the gift of insight that crosses boundaries. Their lives are a call to the rest of us, to be curious, to connect, to see the bigger picture. In their restless exploration, they reveal that human intelligence is not about boxes and silos. It's about weaving the whole fabric of knowledge into something alive. Polymaths don't just live many lives. They show us that all lives, all fields, all ideas are connected, and that to be human is, at its best, to embrace that wholeness. Level 9. Visionary intelligence. Throughout history, a few individuals stand out not because they mastered many fields or thought faster than others, but because they saw what didn't yet exist. They were visionaries. They imagined futures, systems, and possibilities that most people couldn't even conceive. Their intelligence wasn't just about solving problems. It was about asking new questions and charting paths toward worlds unseen. Visionary intelligence represents this rare level of human thought. While polymaths integrate across existing domains, visionaries leap into the unknown. They anticipate change before it arrives. They recognize patterns in society, technology, and human behavior that point toward futures still invisible to most, and they build frameworks to guide others into those futures. This level of intelligence is less about IQ scores and more about orientation. It combines high cognitive ability with foresight, creativity, and an almost prophetic capacity to see where humanity is heading. How visionaries think. Visionaries don't just process faster or learn more deeply. They think on longer timelines, where most people solve immediate problems. How do we fix this now? Visionaries ask. What will this look like in 20 years? In 50? How can we prepare for what's coming? Their thinking often feels strange to those around them. They may propose ideas that seem impractical or even absurd. Self-driving cars in the 1950s. Global internet networks in the 1960s. Private space travel in the 1990s. But over time, the world often bends toward their visions. Visionaries also think in systems and dynamics. They don't just see isolated events, they see how politics, culture, technology, and psychology intertwine. They sense when one small change could ripple into a revolution. Work and careers. In careers, Visionaries rarely stay in traditional roles. They might start as scientists, artists, or entrepreneurs, but their true power lies in shaping movements. In business, they build companies that redefine industries. In science, they create frameworks that open entirely new fields of study. In politics or activism, they rally people around ideas that initially seem impossible but eventually reshape society. Their careers often look chaotic, full of pivots, failures, and risks, but from a distance, the pattern emerges. Each step builds toward a vision larger than themselves. Relationships and social life. Visionary intelligence can be both inspiring and isolating. On one hand, visionaries attract followers, collaborators, and admirers. Their passion and clarity of purpose are magnetic. People are drawn to those who can articulate a future worth striving for. On the other hand, visionaries often feel misunderstood. Their ideas are ahead of their time, which means friends, colleagues, and even family may dismiss them as dreamers or eccentrics. This disconnect can lead to loneliness. Some visionaries retreat inward, others double down, working tirelessly to prove themselves. In close relationships, visionaries sometimes struggle with presence. Their minds are in the future, imagining what could be, which can make it difficult to stay grounded in the here and now. Adaptability and growth. One of the greatest strengths of visionary intelligence is anticipatory adaptability. Visionaries don't just respond to change, they prepare for it before it arrives. They create strategies and frameworks that allow them, and those who follow them, to thrive in shifting landscapes. But this adaptability can come at a cost. Because visionaries see far ahead, they sometimes neglect the present. They may grow impatient with incremental progress, or frustrated when others can't see what feels obvious to them. Growth for visionaries often means learning to balance their far-reaching vision with the realities of today. Blind spots and struggles. Visionary intelligence, like every level before it, carries pitfalls. Rejection. Their ideas often sound too radical, earning ridicule or dismissal. Isolation. Few people can follow their pace of thought, leading to loneliness. Overreach. Some visions are too ambitious, collapsing under practical limits. Impatience. They may struggle with the slow pace of social and institutional change. Misinterpretation. Their foresight may be misused by others, leading to unintended consequences. These struggles don't diminish their importance. They highlight the courage required to live at this level. The human meaning of visionary intelligence. At its heart, visionary intelligence is about possibility. Visionaries live at the edge of imagination, asking not just what is, but what could be. They remind us that the future is not fixed, that humanity can evolve, adapt, and create new worlds. But visionary intelligence also carries responsibility. To see futures is not enough. One must guide others toward them with care, empathy, and integrity. Without this grounding, visionaries risk becoming prophets without followers, voices crying out in the wilderness with no one to hear. Closing thoughts. Level 9 intelligence is rare and extraordinary. It moves beyond integration of existing knowledge, the polymath, into the creation of entirely new visions. It is both a gift and a burden, the ability to see beyond the present, but the struggle of being misunderstood in the moment. Visionaries shape history, not just by thinking differently, but by daring to imagine futures and convincing others to walk toward them. Their greatest challenge, and their greatest meaning, lies in bridging the gap between the world that exists and the world that could be. Visionaries often look like outliers, people whose ideas feel too wild or too far ahead of their time. But history and contemporary life are filled with examples of individuals who saw beyond the present and imagined futures no one else dared to believe in. Their stories reveal both the extraordinary potential and the loneliness of living at this level of intelligence. Case Study 1. Nikola Tesla, the dreamer of currents. Nikola Tesla was more than an inventor, he was a visionary. Born in the 19th century, he imagined a world powered not by candles or gas lamps, but by electricity transmitted wirelessly. while others were perfecting basic electrical systems. Tesla envisioned entire networks of power flowing through the air. At the time, his ideas sounded like fantasy. Investors pulled out, rivals mocked him, and he died poor and relatively forgotten. Yet decades later, his visions proved prophetic. Wireless communication, global power grids, and renewable energy storage all trace lines back to his imagination. Tesla's life shows both the brilliance and the burden of visionary intelligence, the ability to see the future clearly, but the pain of watching the present dismiss it. Case Study 2. Steve Jobs, the architect of everyday futures. Steve Jobs wasn't just a tech entrepreneur. He was a visionary who reshaped how people interact with technology. While engineers focused on hardware specifications, Jobs asked bigger questions. What if computers weren't machines for specialists, but tools for everyone? What if design mattered as much as function? From the Macintosh to the iPhone, Jobs didn't simply improve existing technology. He reimagined its role in daily life. He saw a future where personal devices became extensions of human creativity, communication, and identity. Jobs wasn't always easy to work with. He was impatient, demanding, and often harsh, but his ability to articulate a vision and rally teams to build it changed industries forever. His story shows how visionary intelligence doesn't just imagine futures, it persuades others to help create them. Case Study 3. Greta Thunberg, the voice of a future generation. Visionary intelligence doesn't always appear in inventors or business leaders. Sometimes, it appears in activists who reframe the moral landscape. Greta Thunberg, a young Swedish activist, exemplifies this. At an age when most teenagers are worried about exams or social media, she was sounding alarms about the climate crisis on a global stage. Greta's intelligence is not just cognitive, it's foresightful. She sees the long-term consequences of inaction and demands that society respond before it's too late. Her speeches aren't just about science, they're about the future of humanity. Many adults dismissed her at first. Some mocked her bluntness, others questioned her credibility, but her ability to frame climate change as a generational crisis has shifted public discourse worldwide. Greta's story shows how visionary intelligence can emerge in unexpected voices and inspire global movements. The family perspective. Families of visionaries often experience both pride and bewilderment. A visionary child may talk about ideas far beyond their years, leaving parents scrambling to understand. They may be stubborn, refusing to accept that's just how it is. They may dream so big that families worry they'll be crushed by disappointment. Supporting a visionary means walking a delicate line, encouraging imagination while grounding it, fostering ambition without letting it drift into detachment. Families that succeed often provide not just resources, but also emotional stability, a safe place for a restless mind to land. The workplace perspective. In workplaces, visionaries are often both invaluable and disruptive. They're the employees who say, "This system won't work in 5 years," while everyone else is focused on next week's deadline. They propose radical changes that sound impractical, until the market shifts and suddenly their crazy idea is the only path forward. Some workplaces nurture them, giving them space to experiment and lead. Others push them out, unable to tolerate their impatience with the status quo. Many visionaries end up creating their own organizations, where their foresight isn't constrained by bureaucracy. A manager once described a visionary employee this way: he wasn't always right about the details, but he was almost always right about the direction. He saw the storm before the clouds even formed. The social dimension. Socially, visionaries inspire and isolate in equal measure. Friends admire their passion, but sometimes struggle to keep up. Visionaries often steer conversations toward the future. What could be? What should be? When others want to talk about everyday life. In leadership roles, visionaries can be magnetic. Their conviction draws people in. But in personal relationships, their future-focused minds may leave partners or friends feeling unseen in the present. The best social environments for visionaries are those that embrace curiosity, debate, and dreaming. Spaces where they don't have to hold back their ideas for fear of sounding unrealistic. Invisible struggles. Behind the brilliance of visionary intelligence lie struggles often hidden from view. Rejection. Ideas too far ahead are dismissed as impossible. Loneliness. Few people share their long-term perspective. Frustration. Watching society ignore obvious dangers or opportunities can feel maddening. Burnout. Carrying the weight of seeing the future is exhausting. These struggles make visionary intelligence as much a burden as a gift. Closing thoughts. The stories of Tesla, Jobs, and Greta show how visionary intelligence plays out in real life. It doesn't always lead to recognition in the moment. Sometimes visionaries die unrecognized, only for their ideas to reshape the future decades later. Other times, they live to see their visions realized, but not without conflict and sacrifice. Visionary intelligence is about more than brilliance. It's about courage, the courage to imagine boldly, to speak when others mock, and to persist when the world resists. Visionaries live at the edge of possibility, pulling the rest of us forward whether we're ready or not. To live with visionary intelligence is to carry a mind that refuses to stay bound by the present. Individuals at this level don't just ask, what is, but what could be. They look beyond current systems and imagine futures that may take decades, even centuries, to unfold. Yet being a visionary is not an easy path. The same qualities that allow them to see ahead can also make daily life difficult, full of rejection, loneliness, and the constant tension between imagination and reality. Let's explore the challenges they face, the opportunities they create, and the larger meaning their lives hold for humanity. The challenges of visionary intelligence. 1. Rejection and ridicule. Visionaries are often dismissed as unrealistic dreamers. Their ideas sound too radical, too inconvenient, or too impractical. Think of Tesla's wireless energy towers. Initially ridiculed, or early climate activists laughed off as alarmists. This rejection doesn't just bruise egos, it slows progress. Visionaries live with the pain of watching ideas they know are viable get tossed aside until the world is ready. 2. Loneliness and isolation. It's hard to live in the future when everyone else is focused on today. Visionaries often feel disconnected from peers. Their conversations drift toward what's coming, while friends talk about what's happening. This mismatch can leave them isolated, even when surrounded by people. 3. Impatience with the present. Visionaries see possibilities clearly, which makes the slow grind of actual change frustrating. Policies take years, technologies take decades, and cultural shifts can span generations. For someone who already sees the destination, waiting for the journey can feel unbearable. 4. The risk of overreach. Not every vision is achievable, or at least not yet. Visionaries sometimes propose ideas that collapse under the weight of current limitations. The danger isn't just failure, it's discouragement, wasted resources, or mistrust from those who follow them. 5. Emotional weight. Carrying visions of possible futures can be heavy. Some visionaries see looming dangers, climate collapse, technological risks, social decay, and feel overwhelmed by the responsibility to act. Others wrestle with existential questions. If I can see what's coming, why can't I change it faster? The opportunities of visionary intelligence. 1. Anticipating change. Visionaries often sense shifts before they happen. They can prepare communities, organizations, or even nations for what's ahead. This foresight can prevent crises or position groups for success in emerging landscapes. 2. Creating new frameworks. Visionaries don't just tweak old systems, they build new ones. They redefine politics, art, science, or technology in ways that shift the ground beneath us. When successful, these frameworks outlast the visionary themselves, shaping generations. 3. Inspiring movements. Beyond their own achievements, visionaries inspire others. Their passion and clarity of purpose ignite followers who may not fully see the vision but believe in the person carrying it. Movements for civil rights, environmental justice, or technological revolutions often begin with one or two visionaries daring to imagine a different world. 4. Expanding human possibility. Perhaps the greatest opportunity is that visionaries expand what humanity believes is possible. They stretch imagination, broaden horizons, and remind us that the future is not fixed but open to creation. The balancing act. Visionary intelligence is powerful, but it demands balance, balancing vision with reality. A visionary must learn when to push hard and when to wait for the right moment. Balancing leadership with listening. Conviction is essential, but so is humility. The best visionaries don't just impose ideas, they adapt them with feedback. Balancing future with present. While their strength is in seeing ahead, they must also nurture relationships, responsibilities, and joys in the here and now. Without balance, visionary intelligence risks collapse into arrogance, burnout, or disconnection. With balance, it becomes transformative. The human meaning of visionary intelligence. At its heart, visionary intelligence embodies humanity's drive to transcend the present. It's about seeing beyond survival to purpose, beyond systems to futures, beyond limits to possibility. Visionaries are not always comfortable figures. They challenge assumptions, disrupt routines, and ask questions many would rather avoid. But this discomfort is their gift. They remind us that complacency is dangerous, that change is inevitable, and that progress is possible. The human meaning of visionary intelligence is hope with direction. Visionaries don't just dream, they point the way forward, offering maps for landscapes not yet drawn. Lessons for the rest of us. Visionaries may be rare, but their lives hold lessons for everyone. Dare to imagine. Don't be afraid to think beyond the present. The future begins with imagination. Expect resistance. Every new idea will face rejection. Persistence is part of progress. Balance dreaming with doing. A vision without action is fantasy. Action without vision is chaos. Both are needed. Find meaning beyond recognition. Many visionaries are unrecognized in their lifetimes. The worth of an idea is not measured by applause today but by impact tomorrow. Closing thoughts. Life at level 9 is extraordinary but difficult. Visionaries live in tension, admired yet misunderstood, inspired yet isolated, ahead of their time yet trapped in the present. They carry burdens, but they also carry humanity forward. When we look at history, we see that nearly every leap, scientific, cultural, political, was sparked by visionaries. They dared to imagine differently and invited us into their futures. Some were celebrated, others forgotten, but all played a role in expanding what humanity could become. In the end, visionary intelligence is less about the individual and more about the horizon they reveal. It teaches us that the future is not a distant place we arrive at by accident. It's something we imagine, shape, and walk toward together. Level 10. Transcendent intelligence. Every level of intelligence we've explored so far, average, gifted, genius, visionary, has been about the mind's ability to analyze, connect, or imagine. But at the very top, intelligence becomes something different. It shifts from being a tool for solving problems or building systems to a way of perceiving reality itself. Transcendent intelligence isn't just about being faster, deeper, or broader in thought. It's about stepping beyond the frameworks that shape human thought in the first place. People at this level don't just work within systems of science, philosophy, or art. They question the foundations of those systems, sometimes even dissolving the boundaries between them. This level of intelligence isn't measured by IQ tests. In fact, many who approach it wouldn't care about numbers at all. It shows itself instead in profound insight, radical perspective shifts, and a kind of clarity that feels more like wisdom than intellect. How transcendent minds think. Transcendent thinkers move beyond categories. Where most people ask, is this true or false? Or, is this right or wrong? They ask, what are the assumptions behind this question? What lies beyond these opposites? They see through cultural narratives, social constructs, and even scientific paradigms, not to dismiss them, but to recognize their limits. For them, truth is not found in winning an argument but in uncovering the deeper structures that make arguments possible. This often leads them into spiritual or philosophical territory. They may explore consciousness, existence, or reality itself, but unlike mystics who rely solely on faith, transcendent thinkers often integrate science, philosophy, and experience into a coherent view that transcends each field on its own. Work and contributions. In careers, transcendent intelligence doesn't always fit neatly. These individuals might appear as philosophers, spiritual teachers, scientists on the cutting edge, or artists whose work reshapes entire cultural landscapes. Their job isn't simply to succeed in one field, it's to shift how humanity sees itself. In philosophy, they propose frameworks that redefine truth, ethics, or knowledge. In science, they open doorways into questions of consciousness, quantum reality, or cosmology. In art, they create works that seem to touch the universal, stripping away cultural boundaries. In leadership, they guide not just organizations but entire generations toward new ways of being. Their contributions are often subtle at first, sometimes misunderstood or dismissed, but over time, they ripple outward, changing not just what we know but how we know. Relationships and social life. Living with transcendent intelligence can be deeply isolating. These individuals often feel out of sync, not just with peers but with society as a whole. Their insights can sound impractical or even incomprehensible to those rooted in everyday concerns. And yet, when they do find resonance with others, the connection is profound. Their relationships are less about shared hobbies or casual conversation and more about shared journeys of meaning. Some become teachers, drawing followers who feel transformed by their presence. Others remain solitary, content to pursue truth without recognition. Either way, their social lives tend to orbit around depth rather than breadth, fewer relationships, but ones that carry extraordinary significance. Adaptability and growth. One hallmark of transcendent intelligence is the ability to hold contradictions without needing to resolve them. Where others demand certainty, transcendent thinkers see value in ambiguity. They can live with paradox, recognizing that reality is often both and rather than either or. This adaptability allows them to navigate shifting systems and collapsing paradigms with equanimity. Where others panic at uncertainty, they see opportunity. Growth for them is less about acquiring knowledge and more about deepening awareness. Blind spots and struggles. Even at this rare level, challenges remain. Isolation. Their insights may alienate them from ordinary life. Misunderstanding. Others may misinterpret their ideas as nonsense or mysticism. Disconnection. Living beyond conventional frameworks can make daily routines feel meaningless. Burden of vision. Seeing beyond systems can feel overwhelming, even destabilizing. Some transcendents withdraw from society altogether, unable to bridge their insights with everyday life. Others fall into the trap of ego, mistaking transcendent intelligence for superiority rather than responsibility. The human meaning of transcendent intelligence. At its core, transcendent intelligence points toward the limits of intellect itself. It reminds us that intelligence, no matter how powerful, is only one aspect of human existence. Beyond intellect lies wisdom, compassion, and connection to something larger than the self. The meaning of transcendent intelligence is not about dominating systems or winning arguments. It's about seeing clearly, about perceiving the ground from which systems arise, and about living in alignment with truths that are bigger than personal ambition. Closing thoughts. Level 10 is less about numbers and more about awareness. It's where the mind turns inward as much as outward, asking not just, what can I know, but, what is knowing itself? It's where intelligence becomes wisdom, where ambition gives way to truth, and where the boundaries of human thought begin to dissolve. People at this level are rare, often misunderstood, but profoundly important. They remind us that intelligence is not the end of the journey. It's the doorway to something beyond. Transcendent intelligence is difficult to pin down because it isn't about IQ points or professional success. It's about a shift in perception, a way of seeing that steps beyond the frameworks most people live within. To understand it better, it helps to look at stories of those who embodied something beyond ordinary intellect. Some of these figures are world-renowned. Others are quiet teachers whose impact was more subtle. All, in their own way, show what it means to think and live from a transcendent space. Case Study 1. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. Over 2.500 years ago, Siddhartha Gautama left behind a life of luxury to search for truth. He was not content with knowledge about politics, war, or philosophy. He wanted to understand the roots of suffering itself. After years of seeking, meditation, and inner struggle, he reached enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. What he discovered wasn't just a new philosophy but a way of perceiving reality differently. He saw beyond dualities of pleasure and pain, success and failure. He understood consciousness not as a fixed entity but as a flow. This insight became the foundation of Buddhism, a tradition that has guided millions across centuries. The Buddha exemplifies transcendent intelligence because he didn't simply add to existing systems of thought. He dissolved their boundaries and revealed an entirely new dimension of awareness. Case Study 2. Laozi, the sage of the Tao. In ancient China, Laozi wrote the Tao Te Ching, a slim volume of poetry and paradox that has shaped Eastern thought for over 2 millennia. Laozi didn't focus on building empires or advancing technology. Instead, he turned attention to the flow of existence itself, the Tao, the way that underlies all things. His writing is full of contradictions that point beyond rational thought. The softest thing in the world overcomes the hardest. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. These aren't riddles meant to confuse. They're invitations to see reality without clinging to categories. Laozi represents transcendent intelligence because he stepped outside the usual frameworks of power and knowledge. Instead of telling people how to control life, he showed them how to align with life as it is. Case Study 3. Albert Einstein, scientist and sage. Einstein is remembered as a scientific genius, but his intelligence had a transcendent dimension. Yes, he revolutionized physics with relativity. But late in life, he spoke less about equations and more about the mystery behind them. Einstein once said, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science." For him, science wasn't just about solving problems, it was about touching something greater, something beyond human categories. He also wrestled with questions of ethics, war, and peace, insisting that intellect without compassion is dangerous. Einstein represents a bridge between genius and transcendence, a mind that not only reshaped science but also pointed beyond science to the mystery of existence. Case Study 4. A modern teacher, Eckhart Tolle. Not all transcendent figures live in ancient history. Eckhart Tolle, a contemporary spiritual teacher, experienced what he described as a radical shift in consciousness. Struggling with depression in his 20s, he one day realized that the self he was tormented by was not truly who he was. That moment of insight dissolved his suffering and opened a new way of being. Since then, Tolle has written books like The Power of Now, which encourage readers to step beyond the thinking mind into direct presence. While critics argue over his philosophy, countless people report that his teachings changed their lives, freeing them from anxiety and fear. Tolle's story illustrates that transcendent intelligence isn't just about rare IQ. It's about a shift in how one relates to thought itself. The family perspective. Families of transcendent individuals often describe them as both strange and luminous. As children, they may have seemed unusually reflective, asking questions not about toys or games but about death, existence, or the meaning of life. Parents sometimes feel unequipped to guide them, not knowing how to nurture such unusual depth. As adults, transcendent individuals may step away from conventional family life altogether, devoting themselves to teaching, meditation, or artistic creation. Others remain within families but bring a sense of calm, perspective, and wisdom that transforms those around them. For families, the challenge is often learning to accept that their transcendent member won't always fit expectations of success. Their contribution may not be a career or wealth, but a kind of presence that radiates into the lives they touch. The workplace perspective. In modern workplaces, transcendent intelligence rarely thrives. Corporations demand productivity, efficiency, and measurable results, qualities that don't align with transcendent insights. People at this level often feel stifled in conventional careers. Some channel their awareness into fields like counseling, teaching, or art, where they can share their perspective. Others step outside the workforce entirely, living simply and dedicating themselves to inner practice or service. The rare organizations that benefit from transcendent intelligence are those that recognize the value of wisdom, not just intellect. A transcendent leader may not produce quarterly profits, but they might build a culture of integrity, compassion, and long-term vision that sustains a company for generations. The social dimension. Socially, transcendent individuals often stand apart. They may be admired as sages, mocked as eccentrics, or ignored altogether. Their insights often challenge cultural norms so deeply that others don't know how to respond. Yet those who spend time with transcendent individuals often describe feeling changed, not by lectures or arguments, but simply by presence. There's a calmness, a clarity, a sense that the noise of the world has been set aside. Their friendships and relationships may be few, but they are deep, often marked by authenticity and unconditional acceptance. Invisible struggles. Even at this level, struggles remain. Alienation. Living beyond systems can feel like living beyond society itself. Misuse of influence. Followers may project unrealistic expectations onto them, turning them into idols. Integration. Balancing profound insight with everyday life, paying bills, raising children, engaging with culture, can be hard. Silence. Some truths are difficult or impossible to express, leaving them frustrated in communication. These struggles remind us that transcendence doesn't erase humanity. Even sages live with human challenges. Closing thoughts. From the Buddha to Laozi, from Einstein to Tal, transcendent intelligence shows itself in many forms: spiritual, scientific, artistic. What unites them is not IQ but a way of seeing that dissolves boundaries and points toward unity. Their lives remind us that intelligence is not the endpoint of human development. Beyond knowledge, beyond achievement, there lies awareness, the ability to step outside the frameworks that define us and glimpse the deeper fabric of existence. Transcendent intelligence may be rare, but its stories remind us that we all have the capacity to touch moments of it, moments when we see clearly. Beyond categories, into the simple truth of being alive. At the farthest edge of the spectrum of intelligence lies transcendence. This level isn't about faster problem solving, sharper memory, or even broader knowledge. It's about moving beyond the frameworks of intellect itself, into a space where wisdom, awareness, and presence take center stage. But living at this level is not easy. It comes with profound challenges, as well as opportunities to shape not just knowledge, but humanity's sense of meaning. The challenges of transcendent intelligence. 1. The problem of language. Transcendent individuals often struggle to put their insights into words. What they see and experience goes beyond the categories language was built for. As a result, their teachings often sound like paradoxes or poetry. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. To them, this is clarity. To others, it can sound like nonsense. 2. Alienation from society. Most people live within systems, cultural, economic, religious, scientific. Transcendent minds step outside those systems. This gives them clarity, but it also isolates them. They may feel like strangers in their own time, unable to fully connect with the priorities of society. 3. Misunderstanding and misuse. Throughout history, transcendent figures have been misunderstood, mocked, or even persecuted. Some were exiled, imprisoned, or killed for challenging dominant paradigms. Even when accepted, their insights are often simplified or distorted by followers. A teaching about compassion may be turned into rigid dogma. A vision of freedom may be turned into ideology. 4. Integration with daily life. Living beyond systems doesn't make the grocery store disappear. Transcendent individuals still face the realities of human life, work, relationships, health, money. Balancing profound insight with ordinary responsibilities can be jarring. Some retreat into solitude. Others struggle to find harmony between their inner world and outer obligations. 5. The burden of vision. To see the limits of human systems is to also see humanity's blind spots, its greed, fear, violence, and ignorance. Carrying this awareness can feel heavy, even heartbreaking. Many transcendent individuals speak of deep compassion for humanity's suffering, but also the pain of watching people repeat destructive patterns. The opportunities of transcendent intelligence. 1. Deep peace. One of the most powerful gifts at this level is freedom from the constant restlessness of the mind. Transcendent individuals often describe a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, a calmness that persists even in chaos. This presence can be felt by those around them, offering comfort and stability. 2. Unity of knowledge. Where specialists divide and categorize, transcendents unify. They show that science, art, philosophy, and spirituality are not separate but different lenses on the same reality. This integrative perspective can dissolve barriers and foster collaboration across fields. 3. Healing influence. Many transcendent figures become teachers, healers, or guides, not because they seek power, but because their presence naturally inspires and calms. Their influence isn't always about ideas, it's about how people feel in their presence. Clearer, lighter, more grounded. 4. Long-term legacy. Though often misunderstood in their own time, transcendent individuals leave legacies that shape generations. The teachings of the Buddha, the Tao of Laozi, the insights of mystics and sages, all continue to guide lives centuries later. Their impact transcends lifespans. The balancing act. Living at this level requires constant balance between silence and speech, saying enough to guide others, but not so much that truth is distorted, between solitude and society, protecting inner clarity while still engaging with the world, between vision and humility, recognizing the depth of insight without falling into ego or superiority. Those who succeed in this balancing act don't just live wisely, they model a way of being that others can glimpse, even if they don't fully understand it. The human meaning of transcendence. Transcendent intelligence points to something larger than individual brilliance. It reminds us that the highest form of intelligence is not about domination or even innovation, but about awareness of being itself. At this level, the question shifts from, "What can I achieve?" to, "What is true?" Regardless of achievement, from, "How can I succeed?" to, "How can I live in harmony with reality?" The human meaning of transcendence is that intelligence, at its peak, is not separate from compassion. To see clearly is to care deeply. To transcend the self is to recognize the interconnectedness of all life. Lessons for the rest of us. Even if few people live fully at this level, transcendent intelligence offers lessons that all of us can touch. Pause the mind. Intelligence isn't just thinking harder, sometimes it's stepping back, quieting thought, and seeing freshly. Embrace paradox. Life is often both and, not either or. Holding contradictions can open deeper understanding. Seek wholeness. Not just success, knowledge, achievement, and progress matter, but so do presence, connection, and wisdom. Live with compassion. The clearest vision is meaningless without care for others. Closing thoughts. Life at level 10 is rare and difficult to describe. It's marked by solitude, misunderstanding, and challenges of communication, but it's also marked by peace, clarity, and a perspective that sees beyond the divisions of ordinary thought. Transcendent intelligence is not about escaping the world but seeing it as it is, without distortion, without ego, without fear. Those who reach it remind us that intelligence isn't just a ladder to climb but a horizon to dissolve into. At its deepest, transcendence is not about being smarter. It's about being free.